Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the June 26th, 2012 meeting of the Board of Selectmen and Sewer Commissioners. Madam Clerk, can we have a roll call?
Mr. Chair, all 5 selectmen are present, as well as our interim town administrator, Mr. Foster.
Okie dokie. Announcements?
We have the Boys and Girls Club of Wareham is looking for recycled materials for you to donate. There's a box located on the 3rd floor of Town Hall. They're looking for box board, which would be cracker or cereal boxes, corks, bottle caps, can tops, plastic trays, not any ones that had meat in them, yarn, string, gimp, beads, sequins, feathers, googly eyes, tape, shoe boxes, paper towel, toilet paper, cardboard rolls, tissue boxes, CDs, DVDs, bubble wrap, magazines, newspaper, manila folders, fabric material scraps, unused paper, foam paper, bubble wrap, tissue paper, silk flowers, egg cartons, cardboard, popsicle sticks, and buttons. So for those of you that didn't catch that list, Mr. Foster, could we ask Mr. Underhill to get a copy of this up on the internet for anybody that might be doing some house cleaning? We also have, I had a whole pile here. The Friends of the Library used book sale. The Friends annual used book sale will begin on July 11th from 6 to 8 p.m. when members only are invited to shop the early sale. If you are not currently a member, you can join that night. The sale for the general public begins on July 12th from 9:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. and continues on July 13th from 9:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Then on Saturday, July 14th from 9:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m. the used book sale will be joined by a yard sale. Those are in caps, with great home and personal items offered at affordable prices. As an added bonus, the Wareham Library Foundation will host a farmers market that same day. If you have, doesn't give me a website to give you for any information. Okay. Then we have the Spinney Library grand opening. Save the date, July 23rd at 11:30 a.m. at the Spinney branch of the Wareham Free Library. Join the friends, trustees, and town officials as the ribbon is cut on this wonderful gift to the town. Spinney will be open 14 hours per week instead of the 12 originally planned. All costs for the annual operation is covered by the Friends of the Wareham Free Library. Hours will be Monday and Saturday, 11:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. and Wednesdays, 4 to 8 p.m. You'll also be able to sign up for a library card at the branch or use your Wareham Free Library card at the full-service library. Spinney is currently closed during the transfer to the town. The Wareham Garden Club's annual Gardens Ashore Tour. The garden tour, which is scheduled for Friday, June 29th and Saturday, June 30th from 10 a.m. until 3 p.m. on both days, is a fundraiser for the club, which awards yearly scholarships to a graduating senior in the area, hosts educational programs, and beautifies several public areas in town. If you are looking for information, please, on attending the tours, please contact the Wareham Garden Club. We also have ebook tips and tricks. Get a head start on your summer e-reading at this informative evening session at the Wareham Free Library, 59 Marion Road, on June 28th from 7 to 8 p.m. It's free with no registration required. Call the library reference desk at 508-295-2343, extension 1012 for more information. Enroll in the Boys and Girls Club Summer Fun Program. Children are encouraged to continue and enroll in the Boys and Girls Club full-day summer fun program. The program is for children ages 7 to 13 and operates from July 9th to August 31st, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Extended day options and financial assistance are available. Please visit www.bgcnewbedford.org, and that would be boysgirlsclubnewbedford.org, or call 508-295-5400 for more information. Wareham Crossing is looking for heroes to honor at the 3rd Annual Braveheart Awards. Wareham Crossing is looking for members of the local community who are true everyday heroes and have shown courage and compassion, bravely defying the odds to make a difference. These heroes will be honored at the 3rd Annual Braveheart Awards being held at the Shopping Center on Saturday, September 15th from 1 to 4 p.m. and hosted by news anchor Maria Stefanos of Fox 25. Visit www.braveheartaward.com and click on Nominate a Braveheart to download the application. This year's ceremony will be themed to celebrate and support the Special Olympics of Massachusetts. In addition to looking for local Bravehearts, Wareham Crossing is also looking for community coaches, past or present Olympians, and/or professional or semi-pro athletes to volunteer their time to help make the day truly great for the Special Olympians participating. That is all that I have, Mr. Holmes. Mr. Teitelbaum?
Nothing, thank you.
Mr. Slavin?
I've got an event on July 4th. I apologize if you can't hear me too well. I have a sore throat today. I'll try and talk as loud as I can and slowly. The Swan Festival this year will be July 4th, and they are combining it with the Wareham Antiques Fair. I believe the Swan Festival is around 12 years, and the Antiques Fair is 36 years. This is going to be held up and down Main Street from Bessie Park all the way down to Center Park. Put up with me for a minute here. I'll read off all the events. It should keep us all busy for quite a while. Merchants Way, we'll have stuff on the Wareham River. We have paddle boats departing from the depot at Merchants Way. We have a Star Sunglasses, Swan Princess, and Prince event. Also on the what we call the Bessie Park, we have performances with juggling balloon animals. We have whirligigs and birdhouses. And we have a sidewalk chalk art all at Bessie Park. Next, we have, if you come to the event, we're basically asking people they like to just in the period of 1776 colors. They have been able to get what we call swan paddle boats. I believe they have like a duck boat and a swan boat. They've been basically from AD Makepeace just bought some, and there'll be rides along the river. We also have horse-drawn carriage rides. We'll have vendors along Pizzoli Square. Dick Maloney's Youth Foundation will be giving out free helmets as they've done the last few years. It doesn't end. We're also going to have a premier pet parade of dogs, which should be a lot of fun on Merchants Way. Just to give you an idea, most patriotic, most Wareham, most unusual, looks most like the owner. Not a very thrilling thought on that one. Over at Post Office Square, which is really by the post office and also by the GAF building, we're going to have music at the square. We're going to have the band Daddy O and the teen rockabilly sensation Brenna and some other surprises as well. We'll also have a historic postcard display at Minerva's Pizza. At the fire station, we're going to have a touch a truck so kids can go play with the fire engines. On Main Street, over by where Mr. Barrett's building is, and across the street where they just refurbished the seafood and the old Texaco gas station, we're going to have a car show there. The antique cars, hot rods, muscle cars. They'll also be parked along the street. Over at Center Park, we'll have the 36th Annual Antiques Fair, and also the Fairing Tavern will be open for tours. We'll also be doing basically like the road show where we take people, bring their antiques in, and then get them appraised as well. And the additional pieces, we have a fiddling and cakewalk at the Congregation Hall, which is the church across from the park. And we'll have luncheon also available at Friendship Hall. That's that event. So it's going to be a pretty nice day for July 4th. I hope everybody takes some time and comes and takes advantage of what's there. It's the first time Wareham has really done a full July 4th celebration in a long time. Just as a further information, we're going to have something called Main Street Madness on Main Street. The dates are July 20th, August 24th, September 21st, October 26th, and Eastern Bank and some of the Village Association are working together to do different events along Main Street with all the businesses. The Board of Selectmen hopefully will be participating as well. Hope we see you all there on the 4th. Thank you.
Mr. Holmes?
I do. Just one brief announcement. I would like to thank the members of the Board of Selectmen, and especially Mr. Foster and Mr. Sullivan, Mr. Buckminster from our Harbor Master team, Suzanne from the Board of Health, and others for all their effort last week in putting on the annual volunteer dinner. It was a lovely occasion in Bessie Park, and once again, if you couldn't make it, we look forward to seeing you the next time. And we do obviously want to thank particularly all of our volunteers who serve on boards, commissions, task force, and everything, because, as you know, there are so many functions out there that these folks deal with. It'd be very difficult to do that without them. On a more troubling note, I might as well just do this today and get it over with, because it's going to come anyway. I would like to apologize on behalf of myself as the chairman of the Board of Selectmen in representing these four fine people sitting beside me. As we began the volunteer dinner, as we have done in the past, typically Pastor Newman is with us. I gave thanks for the gift of volunteerism, the nourishment we were about to receive, and a thought for our service people and their families who are serving our country. I obviously offended at least one person, and on behalf of the board, I would like to apologize for my behavior. And to those, because I know the phone call's going to be made, so I might as well just jump on the sword today. I have no issue jumping on the sword, but my apologies if I offended anyone. We'll make sure that we do it again. And to the folks who have an issue, they can come 15 minutes later. That's all I got, Mrs. Winslow. Oh, wait a minute. If I might, take a moment to the little gentleman who only knows my voice from TV. I'd like to welcome my first grandson, Devin James. I see him in the hospital. He seems to brighten up when he sees me or hears me. Of course, he can't see me, but he knows it's that guy from TV, right? So anyway, so there's a shout out to Heather and little Devin and Devin's dad, Chris. Okay.
Congratulations, Mr. Chairman. Mrs. Begley. Next up, we have Mr. Jim Newman.
Thank you. You got a few certificates here, Pass. I'm going to pass them out. I'm going to have Ms. Boyer was passing out some paperwork for you right now.
Thank you.
I'd like to introduce Sharon Boyer, Ms. Sharon Boyer, and Bob White, who are going to be running the Veterans Day Parade this year. They did a fantastic job last year. They said they'd do it again this year. Because I had to step back because I can't handle it any longer. Getting too damn old for it. Get up in your 80s, you gotta step down once in a while. The things that Sharon just passed out to you tell us what's going on. And right now I want to pass out a few certificates. What we got? I got Kara.
Thank you, Mr. Newman.
And Peter.
I will when
Thank you, Jim.
And Alan.
Jim, we appreciate
Stephen.
that very much.
I got to apologize to Alan. I want to give you, yeah, but you're there when I need you for some other stuff. I have a bunch of other ones here. Yeah, because I was a little slow getting in touch with these people. They weren't here tonight. I have Michael Flaherty, Brian Turney. He's on the firing squad for the police department. Then we have Susan William Gifford, who's always there. And I got Dean Dickers on the police force. And Daniel Flaherty. And Stephen Kearney. and Richard Robach, and the chief Stanley. I got one for all these people. The police department. I didn't get to notify them until today. I kept saying, "I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow," and then all of a sudden, tomorrow was here. I think you all know that thing. I had one coming for Ellen and one other. I apologize for not having it here tonight. That was my fault, 'cause on the oversight, my son didn't. I gave it to him. Mr. Van der Stee makes up the certificates for me, and I forgot to give him your name at the last minute. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Mr. Newman. I'm going to read this, and they all say the same thing.
Yeah, I'll say same
Yes,
thing.
so I'm just going to read it for the record. The Wareham Veterans Council Certificate of Appreciation. The Wareham Veterans Council would like to present the Certificate of Appreciation to, we've already heard the list of people, your participation as everybody's role in the annual observance of Memorial Day to honor the veterans of Wareham and Onset sets an example of patriotism to be commended and admired. This 28th day of May, 2012, signed by James B. Newman, Jr. Thank you very much, Mr. Newman.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
And any time you want to come in here, you're first. Just remember that. Okay. So, not too many people get before the citizens' participation, Jim. But you're one.
You're the best.
You're the best. That's right.
You don't believe
Okay.
it, ask me.
Next time we'll put you before the roll call, but I don't think they would allow that.
They might leave then.
Okay. Next up, citizens' participation. Anyone like to speak this evening? Sir? Right to left?
Ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
Dave Willis. I'm sure you all remember me from last year. I'm here to ask your help regarding trash collection. I'm sure you've all received the emails about the trash and our inability to pick it up. I've got some more photos right here. I've got these here. I came to you last year for the first time regarding our inability to pick up trash. Being a beach community, we invite people to town, and when the summer comes around, more people come to town than we usually anticipate. And now with 4th of July coming and even more people coming, you're talking about more celebrations, biggest day Wareham's seen in a long time. I think it's time we address the town's inability to collect trash in a timely fashion before the skunks and animals and birds get to it. So my proposal still is and has been that we change collection times, especially Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, to the evening time. And I know that would mean creating something new, something we've never had. But what we have isn't working. And even if it means writing grants, we talked about that last year. Town doesn't have the money. We don't have the manpower. We don't have the leadership in the Office of Municipal Maintenance to take care of this. Then we need to, that's why I'm here. So just to start the conversation, where can we find the answers? But it's not going away. And I know you all remember the movie, the short film I brought to you last year. We need help. We need your help.
All right. I think we had a brief conversation over the last week or so, David. I think that, speaking for myself, of course, I do intend, as I told you, I was supposed to meet with Mr. Gifford yesterday. I didn't meet with him, so I would take some exception to the lack of leadership comment, because you don't start a conversation by trying to get something done by attacking somebody who's got 4 people to do the job. It's a monumental job, as you know, right? And so whether you have, if he had 80 people down there and they weren't picking up the trash, that would be one thing. But a lot of our municipal areas are hurting because we just don't have the hands. So I understand. I live there, as you know, and I've been with you in the mornings after the Seagulls got to the buffet, right?
Right.
So, I do plan to continue to sit down with Mr. Gifford, but I had several suggestions other than yours about the evening time pickup, thinking that might at least keep the vultures away during the night when there's nobody walking around, and that might help. But we need more hands.
We do.
We need more hands. I don't want to pick on the people that the few hands who are down there.
I'm picking on the leader, not the people that work in municipal maintenance.
There's more to it than that.
We need him to write some grants.
He would love to have 20 guys and not a scrap of trash on that beach. That's what he would love, just like the rest of us would. But unfortunately, that's not possible with 8 hands. And you're trying to maintain an entire town. It's very difficult, David, and I think you know that. So I think to put pressure and attention to the issue is the way to go about it. But to attack people, I don't think that's fair. Just so you know.
Okay.
Any other comments? Peter?
Well, as some as you know, I'm right above the Tempest Knob boat ramp, and to the extent that Onset has trash problems, so do we at that ramp. I've spoken to Mr. Buckminster about it. It's difficult, again, as Chairman Holmes says, to get things done when you don't have enough bodies around to do it. It's, I don't know whether this is something that's a subject for the litter mob, perhaps, to look into, to assist in carting off some of the trash in addition to doing the roadside collections. Should we look at it in terms of volunteerism? Because I'll tell you, this is not a selectman issue. It's not a director of municipal maintenance issue. It's a funding issue. And we met last spring at town meeting, and we voted to appropriate a certain amount of money to the municipal maintenance department. Mr. Gifford uses that to hire as many employees as he possibly can. Unfortunately, he doesn't have anywhere near enough to do the job, including the removal of trash. And so this board isn't going to be able to change that. Mr. Gifford isn't going to be able to change that. It's a political reality that we don't have the money. If we don't appropriate the money, we're not going to have the workers. So with that being said, I think your highlighting of the issue is important. I see it myself on a daily basis every time I go down the hill. But I think we have to look at it differently. It's not something that the town is necessarily going to be able to improve upon immediately, because we just don't have the money or the bodies. I would suggest putting together a volunteer effort to try to, on Saturdays at least. So the transfer station is open. There's nothing wrong with taking a trash barrel down, grabbing excess trash off the ground, and hauling it on up there. So that's all I have to say on the score.
The issue really is a people issue. Trash doesn't get there on its own. The people bring the trash. They come in and leave it. The litter mob, which I'm very active with, also do my own area, which is the Tempest Knob boat ramp. We pick up, and we do actually do a lot of work. If you look around Wareham, at least in a lot of the areas that the litter mob's been active, those areas have vastly improved from where they were. Unfortunately, about a month to a month and a half past, when you go through an area, you still start to see litter building up again. This is going to have to be a community effort. if you have $10 and you got $50 in expenses, you're going to have to make some adjustments. I'd like to see basically if you would spend some time developing some volunteer groups, because they can do the job and it can be done. I mean, I go on Saturday, I bring trash to the dump. I mean, it's one thing if you have everything in place, David, but we don't.
I appreciate that, Mr. Slavin, but the volunteer groups are already in place. But what I'm talking about is a complex issue. It's not just one answer, and the volunteer groups are in place. And I can't appreciate Mr. Teitelbaum's negative approach to everything that he just said back to me, because
David,
it
please.
sounds like that
David.
you're saying there's no
David.
way to change what's going on.
Please.
Easy now. Look, this is not a. It's not a.
We're trying to make this work for you, but to sit there and attack someone doesn't work. What we're trying to do is come up with ways we can actually come up with solutions. If you know, so let's go back to the problem and solutions, please.
Right. Well, the problem is that we need to come up with solutions, and what I'm hearing is that we can't come up with solutions. One of them was going after grant money. Somebody went after grant money to improve the sidewalks in Main Street of Wareham that a lot of people didn't like, $900,000. Well, it says here what our community development needs and priorities. This is for the grant money, if you're going to write a grant to get money. It says, are there unmet needs that could improve the social and economic conditions faced by lower income and disadvantaged residents, which is basically half the town? Yes, there are unmet needs, but instead we've used it for bricks.
Well, the 900,000 was the
Mr. Chair.
block grant from the state,
Right.
right?
So that's my point. It's like, why can't we write a grant?
It wasn't all used on bricks. That
to
money
get-
is used for a multitude of things. The binder is that thick. What that money is spent on, it's not used on bricks. So don't classify that as we spent $900,000 on bricks, because that's not factual. All right. We understand that there's an issue with trash,
Unmet needs.
and the town does pick up the trash. So we don't want to make it sound like the town doesn't. It may not be timely enough
It's negligent.
for what we'd like to see, but they do pick up the trash, David, correct? It may not be timely enough for some of us, but they do pick up the trash. They don't leave it there for weeks. They're out there every day picking it up. You can, yes?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we need to try to do it, and I have it actually, we have an agenda item later on where I'm going to go back and bring up the issue of having that trash task force, because I think that's a good idea.
Ms.
Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, I have a comment, but Mr. Interim Town Administrator had his hand up, so.
Well, go ahead with your comment.
No, I'll let him go.
Okay, and you just gave up your time. Because we need to move on.
I'm
It's not an
moving.
agenda item.
I understand that.
Mr. Foster?
Just today, the town received 20 new wildlife-proof covered trash barrels. And Gary Buckminster, Mark Gifford, and his foreman, Dave Menard, are going to be out on the beaches and different locations in town. These are covered trash barrels. They purchased these with money from the Carver, Marion, Wareham Regional Disposal Committee last fall. It was $8,000 worth of trash barrels, and that should help a little.
Thank you, Mr. Foster.
Thanks, John.
Mr. Willis, I agree with you. You know that. And if we didn't face some of the constraints that we face, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Right.
But, as Mr. Foster just said, we now have 20 new trash cans. I know it seems like forever. Rome wasn't built in a day. None of us like to see it. It's concerning to all of us. But we're doing the best that we can do. And the litter mob has been an amazing help. And those folks just go out and do it. And I think that every step forward is better than we were yesterday. And we've got to focus on the positive, and we've got to focus on the progress. I've said this to you before.
If I've seen some, I wouldn't be here.
But there has
Okay.
been progress.
All right, Mrs. Begley.
I agree that there's a litter issue. No one likes litter. There isn't anybody here, and I've said this before, no one's pro-litter. But we, as my colleagues have said, we have constraints. And there's nothing wrong with people adopting neighborhoods and being responsible for areas. And I understand when there's a couple photographs in there that look like beaches that I've seen in third world countries. But as I said before, when I was there for beach cleanup, there were less than a dozen people there. So all of us have to own this, not just the municipality. So it may not, we're trying to address the situation, and it may not be the way that you want it addressed, but there is progress being made. So I do agree with my colleagues. It's not, I don't agree with people at the end of the weekend putting their household trash in our trash containers or surrounding our trash containers, as opposed to going to the appropriate places to get rid of their household rubbish. But I'm not sure what we can do other than put, what we get, supposed to put cameras there or guards there. I don't know what the answer is other than to encourage the tourists as well as our permanent residents to take pride in their community.
Initially, if I could just, one more thing, this was the beginning of a conversation to talk about changing policies to a pack it in, pack it out, which would mean getting grant money for signage. We got the barrels, okay, but now we need money for bodies and people to pick it up, and we need to reform collection times, okay? That's my case. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Sir, in the back. Ma'am? I can't see over the heads. All I see is a hand. Oh, there you are.
Oh. Thank you.
Sharon Gomes, Oakdale Betterment, but I'm not here just on Oakdale Betterment. I'm here on the homeowners of Oakdale and Cremisa.
Thank you.
Those are questions that on July 14th we hope that we will have answers to.
Ms. Combs, do you have one more copy,
Yes, I do.
please? If you don't, it's fine. I can make them. I need one for Guy. Thank you.
Those are the questions that we have for July 14th and hope that we get answers for. We're asking that on July 11th that we get a written back to the questions that we do have. This concern is, I think that it should be a concern of the Oakdale and the Cremisa Betterment, but I also hope that it's a concern for the selectmen because I think it's gone on too long. We're hoping that we want to be heard and we want this to end. So we want to make sure that everything is in place. We're hoping that we have the same setup that you have here and that we could, you know, have the people up front so that they can be heard, because at the last workshop, I don't think that it was run the way that it should. We didn't know who was sitting at what table except for the people that we were familiar with. And we're hoping that we could at least have tables with GOSO, CDM, and also for the Betterment people to sit at a table so that we can get answers and not, this meeting is a cause. So we want answers and we want to know where we stand. I mean, I think that the evidence is there, the questions are there, they're reasonable questions, and for the amount of money that they're asking us to put out, I think that things need to be answered and not put off anymore.
Right.
You know,
And this is exactly what I asked you for. This meeting, we seem to go back to this workshop. The workshop was exactly what it was designed to do and meant for. It was a workshop. It was not a contract to meeting. right?
Right.
I keep saying that because
Right.
those are the facts.
Right.
This is a meeting specifically to discuss these contracts. So,
Okay.
Mr. Campiner asked if he could have the evening off, and I said yes. I thought that was appropriate. And his last comment to me, and my text message was, "Do you have a final list of the questions?" So, your timing is perfect.
Okay.
He has arranged, without a whole list of characters, the engineers, Giosa, Judici. I think there are a couple of attorneys coming. There'll be a whole host of people that you can ask these questions of. And we do encourage participation and discussion. As you know, I don't mind that. I won't tolerate other stuff, right?
Right.
But as we've discussed on numerous occasions, we'll make sure that, and if there are any other questions, just drop them off or shoot me an email so that Mr. Campaign, the purpose is so that he can get out, get the questions answered, and get them back to us before the meeting. Now, you said July 11th, right? That's a Wednesday. So I think Guy's target is more like the Friday or the Monday before, but we'll make sure that you get a copy of those
Right,
the
'cause
answers
this-
prior to that. Well, you need time to get it out to the folks and give them a couple of days to read it. So I think we were trying for the Friday before.
This
Which would
battle
have
is
been-
not just with the residents of contract two, too. It should be an issue with the selectmen.
Well, it is
Because-
an issue with the select.
Exactly.
Now don't
No,
go there.
Let me finish.
Don't
Okay.
make comments like that because it
No.
is an issue with the selectmen.
It should be with the residents and the selectmen because there were guidelines that should have been met. There were things that should have been approved from the selectmen, and not only just the selectmen, DEP, and when getting certain funds, they should have been approved because certain funding, they would have been guidelines. So not attacking the selectmen, but there were so many overheads and approvals should have been done, and yet we're charged this large fee. So that's what I'm saying.
Well, one doesn't necessarily equal the other, and there's nobody sitting at this table that isn't concerned about this. I can tell you that.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And if you have any other questions that you
I
come
do.
up with, just get them to me
Okay.
so that I can get them to Guy, and he can make sure that they're fully answered, okay?
Okay.
All right.
This has nothing to do with sewer.
Oh.
I've had my grandchildren for the last week, and I took them Little Harbor and Onset. It's a concern of mine because we keep on saying that we survive off of the summer residents, and this week there were like 1,000 people at Onset Beach, and there were no ropes, there were no guard,
There were no what?
no ropes, swimming ropes, there were no lifeguards.
Nope.
Little Harbor, the same thing. If
Nope.
we are going to say we want these summer residents, and everybody is responsible, grandmothers, parents are responsible to watch their children. I had the ages from 2 to 14, but I had to be concerned with the 14-year-old because there was no ropes. And I know there's a drop. I mean, I've swam in that beach many, many times. And I'm hoping that we don't have to suffer from someone drowning. But not only just children. Just because you go to the beach doesn't mean you know how to swim.
Right.
And if there's a drop, I mean, Little Harbor, same thing. I mean, we want the summer residents. And, I mean, I think that we should be able to provide lifeguards or ropes or something so that people stay safe and not have to read one drowning in Wareham.
This is, it's not necessarily an easy answer, but it's a very simple answer. Money. As you know, last year, the lifeguard program was reinstated. I think we had it for 2 years. 2 years. And unfortunately, there just wasn't, it's about $100,000 for the entire program, right? 75 to 100. And it's not there. So as other local communities have had to do, I think our neighbors Bourne, they had to pull their program as well. So it's not just Onset or Wareham, but that just simply comes down to dollars and cents. And
Okay.
I'm sure that if the occasion arose where we had the money, that they would be out there, because I think it is important. It was just a matter of money.
Thank you,
You're welcome.
and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. Don't forget, if you have any more questions, make sure we get them quick, because we're getting down to 2 weeks, right? 2.5 weeks.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
is
Anybody
there,
else? Sir? You, sir. All right. I could call you something else if you'd like. Whatever you'd like.
Here I am, Frank Kozik from Onset.
Frank,
I
good
have to
evening.
pick up on something, two things. Pick up on something Mrs. Begley said on the trash. I spend 9 hours a week as your representative on Swift's Beach. There isn't a week that goes by that somebody doesn't come out there, a weekly renter, that doesn't come by and try to dispose of their household weekly trash for the week in one of the barrels, and I have to turn them away. And they ask me where to go, and I can't tell them because there is no place for them to go.
Right.
There is no facility. You have to have a sticker to dump in Marion. You have to have a sticker to dump in West Wareham. They got no place to go. They can't even pay to go. They'd be tickled pink to pay to get rid of it. There is no place for them, for those people to go.
And I think sometimes we make it hard for some of our summer residents who don't own a vehicle to get a sticker.
Well,
so that's another issue
the
that we're
landlord
looking into as well.
In many cases, the landlord, the rentor does not give them rubbish barrels. So they
Right.
just get the stuff and they don't want to take it back to Boston or Worcester or wherever they come from. And it's something you could fix. You could put the town rubbish packer in the parking lot and charge $1 a bag, and you'd probably get, as long as you get the word out, and get rid of it. Number two, I'd like to know what happened to the Staples project, not the Staples project, the Tractor Supply project that was announced and was going in East Wareham in the old Staples. There's people that I'm acquainted with that are working in other stores that don't know they're destined to work here. They want to know what's going on.
I don't have an answer. Anybody? Mr. Slavin, you have an answer?
Sorry. I can't explain what the delay was, Frank. Originally, they were rushing to get done for last fall, if you remember. They put the project off. They're not backing away. They just took their time. I believe there was contact from the planning department about 3 weeks ago. They are going to move forward with it. It's just a corporate decision. It's slow getting there.
It was their decision.
It's their decision. Nothing to do with the town.
Okay, thank you.
Well, didn't last year as well. There was an issue with one of our departments, and then they ended up renting the space to the Halloween people. Costumes. Right. Hopefully we'll see that soon. Anything
Mr.
else?
Chair?
Mrs. Winslow.
Before we move on, as you know, we just talked about the trash sticker, and we did have an issue that arose. Can we get this discussion on a future agenda as to what to do about, now that we've combined the beach dump stickers, our seasonal residents who do not live here
Okay.
year-round can't
Got
get...
it. I got it.
Thank you. Is there anything on the Westfield discussion tonight?
Just a comment from Mr. Sullivan letting us know that it's all been posted and the timeline is on schedule. Thank you very much. Consent agenda.
The consent agenda. We have no bills or well, we have lots of documents to sign, but the appointment of the poll workers. This is a long list, folks. So here we go. I can do this in one motion, right?
Just please, no addresses. You can just do them by precinct.
I think we can do them by the precinct. Yeah, that's what I'm using. Okay. So I'm going to do this in one big motion here. I move to appoint the following election poll workers for a term to expire on June 30th, 2013. Precinct 1 officers, Hazel Tabor.
I have a motion made. Second. Anything else? All in favor?
Don't we have to go
All
through the list?
opposed? Go ahead.
Oh. I have to say as printed.
However you'd like.
I'll withdraw my motion.
I thought you were going to do them as one.
I was going to read the list, but if I don't have to read all the names,
That would work.
That would be better. Hopefully they all know who they are.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm sure they do.
I move to appoint the election poll workers as described in a letter dated June 14th, 2012 from Town Clerk Mary Ann Silva for a term to expire on June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0.
Okay. Now, we have appointments and interviews too. Another long list.
I did want to just explain that.
Okay.
what-
If you don't mind.
What she did, what we did was, you have a table that was handed out to you. Did you get it? Looks like this. Mrs. Winslow?
Yes, it says revised,
Yep.
but it's still missing one application.
Well, we'll get to that when you get to that application.
Okay.
But, and what we would do is go down the list. The dates and expirations are in the packet. It looks like this. And then you can just make your comments on the list here, and then Janet will prepare the packet for signature. You have a couple of weeks to stop in and sign all this. So if you just make a notation on this revised sheet, we'll put it in the yellow envelope, and she'll get the official appointment papers done.
Okay. I move to appoint Mary Scarziotti to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Motion made in second. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0-0.
I move to appoint Wilma Engerman. Did I say that correctly? Okay. To an associate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0-0.
I move to appoint Michael Johnson to an associate member to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? 5-0-0.
I move to appoint Michael Langford to the Bike Path Committee for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0. Opposed? 0-0. Okay.
I move to appoint Jean Connaughton to the Community and Economic Development Authority for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5-0-0.
Oh, I'm going to mess this one up. Oh, no, I'm sorry. First I got Sandy. I move to appoint Sandra Bessie to the Community and Economic Development Authority for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
All right, here we go. I'm going to apologize in advance. I move to appoint Robert N. Fichtenmeyer
Right.
to the Community and Economic Development Authority for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
I move to appoint David Smith to the Community and Economic Development Authority for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
I move to appoint, there's no, okay, John Conley to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
I move to appoint Sandy Slavin to the Conservation Committee for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Abstained?
Abstain.
4-0-1.
I move to appoint Mark Carboni to the Conservation Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
I move to appoint Joseph Mulkern to an associate member on the Conservation Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Joseph Leggett to an associate member of the Conservation Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and
Second.
seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
Okay.
We got the note on Paul, right?
Yep.
Skip him, please.
I move to appoint Donna Barros to the Council on Aging Board of Directors for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
For
Aye.
discussion,
Yes.
I understand that Mrs. Barros had a problem attending the meetings, or no?
Some time ago, yes.
Yeah, but she's been attending much
As far
more
as I
regularly.
know. There
Okay.
have been no complaints.
Thank you.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Theodore Larkin to a member of the Fence Viewer to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Second. I didn't know we had a committee. I thought there was just one person.
There is.
It says appoint you to a member to the Fence Viewer.
Okay.
Boilerplate.
Okay. Second.
He can be a committee of
All
one.
in
He's a
favor?
committee of
Aye.
one.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
If he talks to himself, he violated the open meeting law.
500.
Can we make sure we send him a note? Okay, can we skip over this for now? Because this is the one we're missing the application on, and we
What are we missing?
had an application come in from,
Kathy
Just came
Finney.
in. She's been, it's going through the process. She'll be here at the next meeting. So there's nothing to skip.
I move to appoint Amy Vigant to a member of the Board of Health for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2014.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Frank DeFelice to the Board of Health for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 500.
Now, this is where I'm confused. We only have one recommendation from the Board of Health on the associates. Were they waiting? Who's the,
No, there's another position open at some point.
Two associates.
what?
There are two associate
There are
positions.
two associate positions on the Board of Health. This gentleman is already serving on the Board of Health.
I
He's
understand.
here for reappointment.
Yes, I understand that. But when we got a letter, there was only a recommendation for one appointment to the associates. So my
That's because
question
I
is,
believe what they've asked is,
there were 3 people applying for 2 positions, so
Right.
what are we doing with the second one?
that person has put in an application, and she's coming here at our next meeting.
So do we hold off on that one till?
No, we can appoint
Gentleman's
or
here
not
for
appoint tonight.
reappointment.
For the one.
And
For the
then
one.
two
Right.
people, then the two applicants.
Okay,
You
that's,
can- listen, we have every right tonight to appoint the person who's been on file. Either way. You can either appoint the person who's been on file or wait for the interview and then appoint either one of those. But that's how it works.
okay, I just wanted to make sure I was clear on what I was doing here.
Well, it's on the list.
Okay, I have the list. I move to appoint to an associate member of the Board of Health, Robert Brady, for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made and seconded.
For discussion.
Discussion?
Yes, I have a problem with this reappointment. I've been serving as liaison on the Board of Health for some time now, and it's been a challenge, but definitely I have come to a great relationship with the 3 full-time members of the Board of Health. However, I've kind of hit an obstacle when it comes to this particular associate member. In fact, I have sought counsel from you, Mr. Chair, regarding some of these issues. So I find that this has been challenging at best.
Well, we've all had our challenges on, I certainly have had my share, but we're all adults and
I'm not
we just need
absolutely.
to deal with it.
But to
The Board of Health recommended him. You're certainly free to vote any way you wish.
well, I'd like to finish what I was saying. Thank you. I have attended
The
some of
gentleman has appeared at the table. Thank you,
well,
Mr. Brady.
I've attended some of these meetings, and the furniture was actually rearranged so that I would not sit up towards where the board was. Certainly, the members of the Board of Health did not support that particular decision by this associate member. They also didn't support some of the disrespectful conversations, and because of that, we've been able to move forward and have a fantastic working relationship with that is definitely going to benefit the town and have it progress. And I feel that this particular associate member is not part of that collaboration.
Well, I certainly would give Mr. Brady an opportunity to defend himself since he is sitting right there.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Brady.
I am Bob Brady, and I have served as the associate member to the Board of Health now for what was left of a term that I was appointed to. And while I find it interesting that Mrs. Begley clearly represents one side of the equation, I think I certainly represent another side, and that side would be that I could sit here and make some accusations, but in the spirit of moving Wareham forward, I would probably wish instead to hold my tongue. But if I'm going to sit here, first of all, having been invited to this meeting, because I'm the only one here that's even being considered for a reappointment yet, but if I'm going to sit in the audience and listen to this, I will defend the position. So, but I am interested in the reappointment to the associate position. I am probably most knowledgeable of the issues that the Board of Health faces. I listened here this evening to a number of citizens with concerns about trash, about lifeguards, and about a number of other things that, while are not yet public health issues, they have the potential to be. And accordingly, if and when you do choose to put on the agenda discussion for some of those things, I would like to participate primarily because I have some proposed solutions that, while the argument or the dialogue is more about, well, we don't have the funds, I see it as a management concern and not particularly the administration, but more so about the priorities of our community. Just to name where some funds are going, from what I see around town, we have more young men and women walking the streets with police uniforms on. We have more men and women, or mostly men, on mountain bikes going through whatever communities or neighborhoods. Our priorities in Wareham, I think, really need to be discussed if we're going to find solutions to keeping our community clean, reestablishing pride, and hoping that it doesn't reach a public health concern. And I would like to sit in and propose ways of generating more revenue for Wareham so that we would have more than 8 hands on the maintenance department, and that we can maybe better utilize the workforce that we have or reach out to other workforces. And I don't think the entire thing, as far as cleaning the town of Wareham, should be put on the litter mob. I mean, they're doing a fantastic job, and God bless them for the effort that they make. But we should not, as a community and as leaders and as management, be suggesting that that's the solution, because that's not the right solution. That's, I think, in my words, irresponsible for a community to say we'll put it on the backs of the volunteers. We need to do a better part to do our part and make more people want to volunteer, and then we've got a force that we can reckon with. So, but as far as the health is concerned, the public health of this community, Mrs. Begley is nothing but interference. Mrs. Begley refuses to recognize. Well,
let's just, you know,
you're suggesting that I'm the problem on the Board of Health. I'm telling you I'm not.
I'm not suggesting
I
that.
don't. Okay, not you, but I'm listening here. No one's asked me to come up for my quote-unquote interview, but yet I have to listen to that, and I don't think that's fair. You want to come down on me for saying something? I think you should talk to your colleague.
We're not going to have this kind of discussion.
That's fair.
I was going to turn to Mr. Teitelbaum next after
Okay.
your presentation.
Very well.
And ask him if he had any
Thank you.
questions.
Hi, Mr. Brady. Do you recall roughly when you were appointed to the Board of Health?
I couldn't tell you the date. It was in the remainder of an associate position's term. I don't know the exact date.
Okay. If you could put a number on it, what percentage of the Board of Health meetings have you been able to attend?
I've been to all of them except the last two.
Okay.
Yep.
Why don't you explain to us what the role of an associate on the Board of Health is? It might be good for the community to hear that.
Well, for anyone that doesn't know, an associate member doesn't have any voting rights. You're primarily there to contribute if so chosen or if you're asked to do so. We have a number of issues that come before the Board of Health, primarily with upgrades to Title V systems. As you all know, as you all should well know, Wareham is facing the likelihood of adopting nitrogen regulations, something more extensive to what really is already on the books. While there are those that might argue that we don't have any regulations, Wareham has done a really good job at sewering a greater part of our community and providing additional setbacks from greater than what the state mandates for development, how close you can get to wetlands, water, etc. Wareham is doing a pretty good job when you think about it. The only real setback Wareham experienced was when we took a number of new sewer users, took all of that effluent and effectively dumped it into the Wareham River. This was before we knew the effects of nitrogen. The town has then had to go and spend $20+ million to denitrify a wastewater treatment facility. We have already seen the improvements to the Wareham River, and good thing. The science didn't know back 20 years ago what dumping all of that extra 1 million gallons a day of effluent into the river was going to do without knowing about the effects of nitrogen.
Right.
We've turned that problem around.
Okay, well, that sort of leads into what I was going to ask you next. With regard to nitrogen, I recall this spring there was a hearing or two held by the Board of Health regarding draft regulations that have been prepared.
Right.
Could you tell us where the Board of Health is with that process now and when we might expect another hearing to be held on the subject?
I don't know when or if another hearing will be held. I can tell you that the initial public hearing scheduled had better than 400 people in attendance in the town hall auditorium, and it was determined by the local fire department that we were over capacity. So that meeting didn't get held. We, as a reaction to that, based on the anxiety in the crowd and with the people in the crowd, we decided to hold a couple of workshops. Those workshops were designed to be informational, educational to more people who didn't particularly understand what it was the regulations would do and how they might be affected by them. So we held those workshops. We then held a public hearing instead in the middle school auditorium. It wasn't as well attended, but there wasn't the same sort of public notice that went out. Accordingly, it was productive. We had a lot of good people. Oh, excuse me.
I don't want to cut you short.
So to wrap this up, we held that public hearing. We took a lot of good input. It was decided that the proposed regulation really needed to be tweaked, and accordingly, I'm not certain we need a new public hearing. I think we just need to fine-tune the regulation or the draft we have and put it forth.
Okay, but you're confirming that the process is ongoing, which is
Yes.
pretty much what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, we haven't discussed it, though, probably for the last 2 or 3 meetings.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Alan?
I really don't need any information. I actually go and observe the meetings, so I know basically where we're at with the whole process. Thank you for applying again.
Thank you for attending.
Mrs. Winslow?
Are you a U.S. citizen?
I am a U.S. citizen.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mrs. Begley?
So I guess where I want to go from here, Mr. Brady, is are you interested in working having a collaborative relationship with me as liaison, since I'm going to be there for the next year?
Well, first of all, the Board of Health is autonomous, and we really don't need a liaison. I think if you wish to continue to serve, this is just speaking for myself. If you wish to continue to serve as a liaison, I think it would be adequate for you to sit in the audience with Mr. Slavin and or your husband and whoever else might be in attendance. I also think that from that view, nobody needs to see certain body language whenever somebody's speaking. You seem to think that you have a microphone and can chime in whenever you want, but yet you should, in my opinion, come up to the table like anybody else, identify yourself, and contribute. And if you are willing to participate in that capacity, then you're just like anyone else, and why not? Of course. But to sit to the side, and there's a lot of head shaking, and there's a lot of body language, and there's a lot of interference, again, in my opinion, I'm going to have difficulty with that, yes.
So the
Okay.
short answer, please, Mr. Holmes, let me
Yeah, I'm
please.
going to put a stop to this.
Right, but the
in
answer-
about 5 seconds.
Okay,
so.
but the answer is no, and I think that I speak at the
That
Board of
means
Health.
she's not willing to
But, Mr.
participate like
Holmes-
everyone else.
All right, all right, all
I
right.
speak with the
That's it.
permission of the chair of the Board of Health. I always ask the chair
Oh, I
for
think you
permission
should
to
be here
speak.
before you say that.
The chairman of the Board of Health sent a letter in recommending Mr. Brady as an associate member of the Board of Health. So we're gonna move along.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Brady, for your time.
Thank you.
Okay. We have a motion made on the table and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No, and I find your vote very disrespectful to me.
Thank you very much. 410. Next.
Very disrespectful.
Mrs. Winslow? I'm sorry, Mrs. Begley. You're not a member of that committee. We are liaisons there. There are people I disagree with on committees I serve on, but I wouldn't stop them from volunteering. Doesn't matter. Members are associate members. Mrs. Winslow?
I move to appoint Angela Dunham to that's the one that we have the other application on. I'm sorry. I move to appoint Angela Dunham to the Historical Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
500.
Oh. Is this one that, okay, withdrew? All right. I move to appoint Cheryl Knapp to the Historical Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Robert Blair to the Historic District Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Frank Tramatozzi to the Marine Resources Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
For discussion.
Motion made and seconded for discussion.
I learned today when I went to the clerk's office that Mr. Tramatozzi is not a registered voter in the town of Wareham. He is, in fact, a registered voter in the city of Boston.
I will withdraw my motion until we can.
Withdraw the second.
Withdrawn.
Okay.
Been a member of the committee for 20 years.
I move to appoint Richard Wheeler as an associate member of the Marine Resources Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Motion made and seconded. Question?
I have a question.
Question?
It's 2015. I thought associate members were 1 year.
1 year.
And this says 2015 on this.
I'll withdraw my motion.
2013.
Are they 1 year on the marine resources?
1 year.
1 year.
All
All
associates.
associates are 1 year.
I withdrew my motion.
Yeah.
Who had the second?
Withdrawn.
Okay. I move to appoint Richard Wheeler to an associate member of the Marine Resources Commission for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Angela Dunham to the Minot Forest Committee for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2017.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Question? All in favor?
2017?
Yeah, I was just going to say, is that 2015 or is that
That should be
4 years?
2015. That's a Scrivener's error.
5 years?
3 years.
I'll withdraw my motion.
No, no need to withdraw.
Just change the date.
It's supposed to be 2015.
Correct.
Okay. It's three. It's 3 on the Minor Forest.
3 years.
Okay, withdrawn.
Make it with the new date.
I move to appoint Angela Dunham to the Minot Forest Committee for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
Mr. Chair, I have a question as to whether or not this applicant is in fact still residing in the town of Wareham. So can we skip
Which one?
Gregory Donahue?
They're still residing here. They did not move.
Well, they did not move, but is their son here?
No, that should be, I believe that's the husband.
Is that the husband?
Yes.
Okay. I move to appoint Gregory F. Donahue to the Open Space Committee for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Charlene Price to the Recycling Committee for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Second.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Nothing on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Jennifer Gady to the Recycling Committee for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2015.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Peter Williamson to the Board of Road Commissioners for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2014.
This is a new commission. I don't know what the partial memory is.
Right.
Motion made and seconded. Question? All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Michael Balboni to the Wareham Cultural Council for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2014.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Naomi Arenberg to the Wareham Cultural Council for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2014.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Well, do you have the notes on there about the dates to change? I'll put mine in.
All right.
All
Next
right.
up.
Next we have,
Citizen. Citizen has to be recognized.
we have Constable.
Sir?
I'm reading the list. Hold on a second.
To skip over it?
I thought we had constables, yes.
Yeah, it's all under C.
Okay. Do we have the...
It was in a previous packet.
Do we need to take a break?
For what?
Mr. Chair, we're going to need to take a couple-minute recess because we have a problem with this.
What's the problem?
Can we take a couple-minute recess so I can discuss it with you?
5-minute recess. Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chairman, thank you. We have an application from Joseph C. Latimer requesting appointment to be a constable.
Good evening, Mr. Latimer.
Yeah, the last meeting that was here, I sat through it all.
That's great.
It's fun, isn't it?
He sat for hours waiting. and
I
then we
know.
didn't-
Sorry about that.
You're going to come next time too,
If
right?
you would like to, if you'd
I
like
have
to
to.
just state why you're interested in being a constable here in Wareham,
My name's
that
Joseph.
would be the place to start.
Okay, my name's Joseph C. Latimer. I own Minis and Latimer Constables Incorporated in New Bedford, Mass. I've been a full-time constable now for about 13 years. Recently, one of my clients from Boston took over some property in Wareham, and the only reason I'm applying for it is so I don't have to keep applying for the 4C motions to come into Wareham to serve the summary process, do the eviction part, or the civil warrant of arrest.
Right.
That's all.
Mr. Slavin, any questions? Mrs. Begley? Mrs. Winslow?
How long have you been working as a constable?
Full-time for the last 12 to almost 13 years, and part-time prior to that.
That's all the questions I have, Mr. Holmes.
Right. Have a motion?
Yes. I move to appoint Joseph C. Latimer as constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 400. Congratulations, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
ma'am.
you.
I believe you need to swing by Town Hall, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I believe
Is anyone else was invited for an interview or an appointment?
we did CBA, bike path,
Okay.
CETA, conservation, constable, council on aging.
Next up.
Next up, we have the approval of the meeting minutes of June 5th, 2012. I move to approve the minutes of June 5th, 2012 as written.
Second.
Motion made and seconded on the question. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
Okay, now we are up to one-day all alcoholic beverage license. I believe we have an application.
Come right on up. There you go.
Those are done. We have an application from Kevin Slattery for, what? Yes?
Just
you're not-
identify yourself so we know who you are.
I'm Karen Deal, his fiance.
Oh, congratulations. Coming soon. Oh, sure, he was out.
Oh, this is.
You thought he was running away, didn't you?
Yes.
We have guards outside that would have stopped you.
No.
All right.
We're going to have to do that.
Just explain your event.
Oh,
Where it is?
We're getting married at the Old Red Farm Inn. We're having a reception. Well, we're going to get married on the beach, have the reception at the Old Red Farm Inn. And,
Great spot.
Oh, I think so.
It's a
Yeah.
great spot.
And we wanted to have our own little liquor license. 'Cause these people drink like animals and... No, they don't.
Your very own liquor license. Wow.
Mr. Titlebaum, questions?
No, congratulations and good luck.
Thank you. We're good to go. About the trash business, I don't know if I know from another community, this has nothing to do with my application, but if you ask the county sheriff to send you
Oh, we do.
inmates,
We have them.
Yeah.
We try.
We get them.
no luck. If you ask the state from MCI Plymouth, they're worse inmates, but they do better work.
Thank you very much.
That's my
Foster, you make a note of that?
I have a question, Mr.
Mrs.
Chair.
Winslow.
Who is going to be the responsible party
me.
for the serving of alcohol?
Is that what me? I also have two tips bartenders that come from the caterers.
Okay, so it's a catering company.
Right.
So we're gonna need those tips
I have their names.
certificates. You have them?
Oh, no, the
Not the
certificates.
certificates, but just their names.
Okay. So if you could fax those over to our office for the file.
Okay.
That's
To Shirley?
Shirley.
Yes.
Okay.
Shirley, Janet, Rebecca, John, Derek,
Okay.
anybody.
Shirley will take care of it for you, sir.
Thank you very much.
It's a great spot.
Yeah.
Wait. We have
to
You're not
vote.
ready yet.
We have to vote.
Mrs. Winslow?
I move to grant a one-day liquor permit to Kevin Slattery for July 14th, 2012, from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., and wish them best wishes on their wedding.
Motion made and seconded. Anything else on the question? Before we vote, you did see the president's...
No, don't
No,
say
no,
it
no.
out
Let's
loud.
vote.
you did
Let's
see
vote.
it, didn't you?
Just vote.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
He doesn't want you to accept gifts. He wants you to have your friends donate to the campaign. Did you see that today in the news?
No,
No.
we didn't.
You guys got to pay attention to the news. Instead of drinking,
Mr.
donate to the president.
Mr. Chairman, we forgot to reappoint the existing constables.
I don't think we forgot.
Constables is on the list.
Yeah.
It's only the top one that's the...
Constable in the file.
No, there's another file, constable reappointments.
We didn't. We had put that off.
Not aware.
Yeah, we didn't reappoint.
Those were put on hold by the chief.
Just one. Okay, but they...
Until I have clarification from the chief, then I would put them on the next meeting.
They expire the 30th.
They expire on Saturday.
Well,
The problem is service of
Make the
process,
motion.
things like that.
I'm not going to make the motion for that one.
well, make the motions for whatever you feel you should. I gave you what my opinion should be. Now you can make the motions.
Well, it's up to the board, but my concern is that we're not going to meet until
Make
the
the
10th.
motions and we'll vote.
Yeah, make them.
Make the motion.
Okay. I move to appoint Thomas Zine to constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Have a motion?
I'd second.
Second question? All in favor?
Aye.
5-0-0.
I move to appoint Michael Lundholm to the position of constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 5-0-0.
I move to appoint Ian Daly to the constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Richard Coletti to constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Charles T. Devlin to constable for the town of Wareham to a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
I move to appoint Michael Diesso to constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Cynthia Follis to constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Gregory Cameron to constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint William McCusker to constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Robert Short to constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Robert Terrell to constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Hervé Vandal to constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
I move to appoint Joel C. Thomas to constable for the town of Wareham for a term to expire no later than June 30th, 2013.
Motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
500.
Mr. Chair, we do have one constable application that I'm going to move on. However, we did get a note in our packets last week regarding this individual. So the board may vote it. We probably have to take action on the application, or no? Just leave it? Okay. That's the one, yeah. So I'm going to put that at the back of the file folder, so when you're signing.
Just here. Put a little note on it.
Okay. You got the stickies. Okay. Now, we have the application for the use of town roads by the Wareham Village Association for the Swan Festival. Thank you.
Have a motion?
I have to find it. I got it. I move to grant permission to the Wareham Village Association, care of Phyllis Deaconess, for use of Bessie Park, Merchants Way, Pizzoli Square, as well as the Town Green for the 16th Annual Swan Festival on Saturday, July 4th, 2012, from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. It is understood and agreed that the town will be held harmless from all liability as to damage to property or injuries to any persons. This permit is effective July 4th, 2012.
Motion made, seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500. 401. Thank you, Alan. Sorry.
Mr. Chair, do we have any sore
Are you a
business?
swan? Is that why? You're going to be a swan? Related to swan?
I think his wife's on the...
No, I just want to remind folks that on July the 14th at 10 a.m. We'll have a meeting of the Board of Sewer Commissioners. The main agenda item for this meeting will be discussion of the sewer contracts. We'll have representatives from, obviously, the Board of Selectmen Sewer Commissioners, Mr. Campino, Mr. Gifford, and those folks who, the engineering firm who manages these projects for the town. There are also some council members, by that I mean attorneys, who will be there. to answer questions. You saw a young lady up here earlier this evening who represents a particular neighborhood within the project. And just so that everybody's aware, we asked her to collect a series of questions to present to the Board of Sewer Commissioners so that Mr. Campina can be absolutely sure that those questions are answered on the 14th. Our goal on the 14th is to have that meeting, have a meaningful, knowledgeable discussion about the project, and be able to answer everyone's questions. So if anyone has a question that you'd like answered, please call Town Hall, leave a message with Shirley or Janet, or call any one of us, email any one of us, and we'll make sure that your questions get on the list. Next up.
Mr. Chairman, next up we have the special election warrant, which I believe we need to approve.
Okay.
So,
Got it?
I do. Greetings in the name of the Commonwealth. You are required to notify and warn inhabitants of the town who are qualified to vote in the election to vote at Precinct 1, Memorial Town Hall, 54 Marion Road. Precinct 2, Hammond School, 13 Highland Ave. Precinct 3, Minot Forest, 63 Minot Ave. Precinct 4, Deacon's School, 760 Main Street. Precinct 5, Deacon's School, 760 Main Street. Precinct 6, Elks, 2859 Cranberry Highway. On Wednesday, July 25th, 2012, from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., to cast their votes in a special town election for the following. Question 1. Shall the town of Wareham be allowed to assess an additional $780,000 in real estate and personal property taxes for the purposes of preventing the layoff of 19.5 teachers for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2012? Question 2. Shall the town of Wareham be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to repair the Wareham High School gymnasium roof, including the payment of all costs incidental and relative thereto? Question 3. Shall the town of Wareham be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to fund the purchase of instructional materials for use in Wareham Public School classrooms, including but not limited to textbooks and technology, and including the payment of all costs incidental or relative thereto? Question 4. Shall the town of Wareham be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2, so-called, the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to pay costs of a feasibility study at the Minot Forest Elementary School in Wareham, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto? Hereof fail not, and make return of this warrant where your doings thereon at the time and place of said election, given under our hands this 26th day of June 2012. Stephen M. Holmes, Chairman, Kara Ann Winslow, Clerk, Ellen M. Begley, Peter W. Teitelbaum, Alan H. Slavin, Board of Selectmen in the town of Wareham. So moved.
Motion made and seconded. Question? All in favor?
Just one question. Has
Any other question?
town council has gone through this?
This document?
Yeah.
Oh, the questions.
The questions?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
I know that. Those are an email exchange. So.
On this side. Okay.
Anything else? All in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye.
opposed?
No.
5-0.
Oh, no, 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 no.
4-1-0. Mrs. Begley
Sorry.
voted no.
I was no.
4-1-0.
Okay. Next up, and I guess that this is for Mr. Sullivan, the Upper Cape budget.
Mr. Sullivan is here to answer any questions from the board on this. Mr. Teitelbaum, you have any questions? This is in regards to the balance. At town meeting voted against or reducing the number, wasn't it? It was reducing the number that Wareham contributes to the Upper Cape Regional Voc Tech budget. Wareham is not the only town that votes in that. a majority of those towns have voted in the affirmative to allow that budget to go through. And so there's a balance between what was voted on at town meeting and what we need to pay to the district. Does that sum it up, Mr. Sullivan?
Correct.
You have anything to add to that?
We put the surplus funds aside in the finance committee in the reserve fund as a just in case if all the other communities voted in favor of the budget. So that way we didn't spend that surplus funds, so we'd have it available for this particular transfer.
Mr. Slavin?
On the transfer, the Board of Selectmen are basically going to request a transfer from the Finance Committee, correct?
Correct.
As of July 1st, 2013 budget.
Correct.
The only other thing I'd like to bring up, I put a little slip in everybody's packet. It says press box bleachers coming to UCT football field. I'm a little dismayed that Upper Cape was able to save $100,000 due to a mild winter and decided to spend what I consider 1/5 of that is our money that we contribute to putting up a new press box and stuff rather than putting money back into the town. I would hope that when they come before us next year that we maybe get together with the 4 other towns and discuss their budget thoroughly before we vote, because obviously they don't really care that much about what we put in because they just spent $100,000. That was basically the 5 towns' money. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slavin. Mrs. Begley?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Sullivan, do they have public hearings? Do you know if they have public hearings on their budget since it's kind of a regional school?
I don't know, but I do know that they come to all the communities and will visit. They will visit the finance committees as well.
I don't recall a presentation this year because in previous years, Mr. Farr, or is it Mr. Farr or Dr. Farr? Mr. Farr would come and do a presentation.
They did make a presentation for the finance committee on the on
but
camera.
not to the Board of Selectmen.
It was it was requested several times. There were scheduling conflicts, and then it got so close to town meeting, it was done there.
He came this year.
He was supposed to come a couple times, and things happened, but I don't believe we had the formal presentation like we typically get.
But I was just wondering if perhaps we can find out, it would probably just be a phone call, if they have any sort of public forum when they're crafting their budget, given that it's a regional school. Thank you.
The towns have a joint meeting? It'd probably be more advantageous to maybe send a letter to the other communities and suggest a combined meeting for a budget review so that all the communities can hear it at the same time and maybe have some input into it.
That was my point about if they, I didn't mean a budget hearing just for Wareham. Since it's a regional school, I was just wondering if they already had something like that in place for all the towns that contribute. And someone in the audience just said they already have that and they have it at the Bourne Library. But if we could just find out, that would be awesome.
I don't know that we've been invited to participate in discussion of the budget prior to it being presented. All right. Okay, easy. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. No need for public commentary.
Are you looking for any action on our part?
Enough. Mrs. Winslow?
Do we need to take action on this? Do you need a vote? Our vote?
Yes, please, if you would I'd ask for the vote and that this actually come from the Board of Selectmen, the transfer request.
I move that this board approve. Where's the amount? I move that this board approve to move $220,346 from the reserve fund into the FY13 Upper Cape Cod VOTEC. Do we have a line item for that?
The if you look at the last page, this one, it would have the actual line item, which is called the Upper Cape Regional Expense.
Okay, let me start over. I move to approve the request to move $220,346 to the Upper Cape Regional Expense line item Account number 10,000-3917-2-0000-0000-569-000-000 to bring the account up to the necessary funding level to pay the FY13 Upper Cape Cod Technical Assessment.
Motion made and seconded. Anything else on the question?
Just one quick question. Derek, do we have to refer it to the Finance Committee where we're making the request to?
They don't always refer to it as the Finance Committee Reserve Fund. I believe the title is just the Reserve Fund on there, but we may have to, they will have to vote to release that.
So we're requesting the Finance Committee.
To vote on it.
Probably should be in there then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mr. Sullivan.
Next up, Mr. Chair, we have the board-appointed task force.
Right?
I think that's the litter.
Oh, 10 Charlie, right. Did you guys got this list?
No.
In going through the Board of Selectmen, obviously being the policy board, we're undertaking a lot of initiatives here over this summer to try to do actually what we're supposed to be doing here, which is a policy-making board. And one of the areas is several task force that have been created over the years by previous boards, including some that were appointed by this board. And the issue here is to look at these as well, to make sure that they're still relevant today. If there's any need for change or any need for addition to task force appointed by the board. We looked through pretty much everything we could find. And we came up with this list. The first one is the Bike Path Committee. The second is the Cable Advisory Committee. The third is the Clean Water Committee. The fourth is the Local Emergency Planning Committee. The fifth, and I actually put this in here because this is pretty much dissolved, the Tremont Nail Master Plan Committee. We have the Westville Review Committee as well. Those are the ones that we could track down and find that were not approved at town meeting, and these are board appointments. These are not town committees. A lot of them say committee on them, but they're not, because they were never appointed at town meeting. We couldn't find any other appointment or formation other than the Board of Selectmen appointed them. Anybody know of any others? We did a lot of searching on this to try to come up with these.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
Mr. Chair? So, all of these committees, it all boils down to that all these committees were appointed by the Board of Selectmen.
Right.
So, I don't, so.
The only one on
What?
there that I had her put it on there that was not necessarily appointed by the Board of Selectmen was the Tremont Nail Master Plan Committee, because last year we voted to realign the membership for whatever reason, and that pretty much blew the committee apart. There's no meetings, there's no members, no nothing. So I put it on here.
So, so what's the purpose of the list?
The purpose of the list is to determine whether these groups are, 1, functional, 2, serve a purpose, 3, need to continue, or 4, I have 3 more suggestions of my own here to create more.
So are we going to have any input from those committees or the chairs of those committees before we
I think
do
that would
anything
be
with
my
them?
intention, is to ask for that if the board so chooses.
Now, the Local Emergency Planning Committee, is that kind of outmoded since now?
We just did that. No, we just actually just appointed that committee about 7 or 8 weeks ago. Chief Stanley is the chairman of that committee.
So that's on here for,
It's a board-appointed committee.
Right.
I don't think it's not going to last forever. there's a time frame in there when that committee would either be dissolved or reignited, or when he's ready, he'll let us know.
Okay. So this list is comprehensive of just committees that were appointed by the Board of Selectmen?
Right, like the bike
understand.
path, at some point, I would think that would either end or continue. Our board actually just appointed the cable advisory, Mr. Titlebaum is starting that next week, right? And that will be sunsetted. The Clean Water Committee, that was appointed by, I think, 3 or 4 boards ago. The local one is the chief. The master plan I put on there because, again, last year's board pretty much dissolved that committee by changing the requirements. And it's never been revived. We have an ongoing group with the Westfield. I think we looked at, I want to say the last vote was either September 30 or August 30. So we'll need to obviously keep that going once we get the RFPs back. But if anybody, you have more? Yes.
I would suggest that we put together a master plan committee to redo the master plan. I believe the last member was 2003. When we did the master plan, we put together a committee. I'll pull the paperwork, but it basically pulls out all the stakeholders. It was quite extensive. All the work's really done for us. We just have to appoint the people back in.
Would you put together a group of folks that you think should be on that? And just...
Well, not the individuals, but I'll put together
No,
titles.
I mean, yeah, right, by title.
I'll have it for the next meeting.
Please. Peter? Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes. What I'd like to see us do is appoint a beach and tourism committee. I think the town is sorely lacking that.
Beach?
Beach and tourism.
Would you put together
Committee.
info on that for presentation to
Yes.
the board? Oh, and the other one I had written down, I apologize because it wasn't at the top of the list, is we did also appoint, not too long ago, a member of our board to serve on some bus action committee. And that, from what we can tell, is pretty much...
Are
dead,
they
right?
meeting?
No.
We appointed you to be on that committee. That committee's dissolved, or... So...
Can we send a letter
I
to
have
the
it
chairman?
on here because that's another one that's short-term task force type thing that we appointed Mrs. Begley to. And if there's any other of those that any of us are appointed to, that should be added to this list as well. Beach committee, beach and park committee, Mr. Titlebaum, you're going to take care of that? Okay.
We do have some sort of defunct park and recreation committee out there that somehow appears on the town website, but it doesn't seem to have done anything for a good long time. But I don't know if that's a creation of this board or town meeting, so we got to figure that out before we do anything about it.
They were redigested, and they're under a different appointing authority. And again, and the other issue is that these task force, excuse me, please, these task force are only those that are appointed by this appointing authority, the Board of Selectmen. We don't have anything to say about the others. And I kind of had the trash pickup, but maybe that falls under the beach and tourism. Well, it seems that most of our trash is along our beaches and in the waterfront, so maybe we had talked about forming a trash group last time David was in. I don't know if we need to have a special one, or if we tie it in there, but I'll put together the ingredients for that.
Is recycling, was that town meeting?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you every single committee and where it was voted. All I know is that she went through all of the list, and these are the ones that she could find that were not.
Okay.
If there's a question on a particular one that you think might be on this list, you want me to check on recycling committee? I may also be, that's a town, you have an employee there, right? That's a town, might even be a town, like the last one was. We had a committee that was really town day-to-day business. All right, anything else? All right, so what my hope is to do here is to send a letter this week to all of these groups, except for the Tremont Nail. Not much of a group there. And we need to discuss that one because, you know, I mean, we got a lot of money sunk into that piece of property, and absolutely nothing's happening. That's a shame. So either we put this committee back together and make it robust, or
Fold it into historic.
or we we pull it under somebody else's hat so that it's on somebody's radar, because right now it's on nobody's radar
Well, has
in
anybody,
terms of any type of activity.
what about CETA or CPC? Getting
Say it again?
involved with- How about CETA or CPC?
Well,
Are they
CETA is
involved with
under
that?
CETA is under our. We have a home rule petition for CETA.
Yeah, it's a 501. I put on this.
What was the other one? CPC.
Community.
I think that came from town meeting.
That's a different deal.
I'll have her double check the
Historic
CPC.
commission would be ideal.
Oh, were you suggesting where we put the Tremont group?
Tremont.
Okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I wasn't suggesting a task force.
I'm
because,
sorry.
of
No, I
course,
was.
I was talking about
I thought you were
Tremont. Yeah,
saying.
because that's why I was kind of sitting here saying, where'd this go?
I thought you were validating those committees.
You're on the
still.
wrong plane.
On the wrong runway. Yeah, so, you know, I'd like to be able to take that Tremont thing and tear it apart. The next meeting we come up with some answer as to what we do with this. But, start.
If on a future agenda, Mr. Chair, has to do with committees, I'd like to see at some point some kind of, I don't know the mechanism, maybe this board can help me, of getting the committees and boards in the same room. Because my concern is this. Sometimes when I've gone to various committees, it seems to me that there may be a duplication of effort and or some things fall through the cracks. And I think having conversations with, similar boards, even, I know they try to prevent that by having liaisons from various boards be on committees, but I think having this board in a room with the other boards and committees, we could probably ask the chairs to help us set some sort of agenda and just kind of try. I really I'm hopeful that this board is going to come up with some sort of vision so that we can all get on the same page and make something happen in the next year coming.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, further in that regard, I guess perhaps we could ask the chairs of each of the existing committees to just sort of send us a little synopsis. What do you do? And from there, we can see how much cross-pollination there is, how much duplication, what areas are being missed.
Well, Mr.
Agreed.
Chair.
I think that one of the misconceptions that really played out when we tried to invite committees in not that long ago. We started that. It started out to be it was a good idea, but in some cases it wasn't pretty. And then it seemed like the Board of Selectmen's calling you in here and that's not what we want. That's not the kind of conversation I don't think Mrs. Begley's referring to. And so I know that Mrs. Connaughton once talked about having for lack of a better term, like a committee roundtable almost, informal session where everybody talks about what they're doing and hey, we're into this, but hey, you know what? Those guys are doing the same thing over there and trying to, you use the word cross-pollinate. So I think that I think that's the better way to go, as opposed to bringing people in and sitting them in at that table. That didn't work out too well. And then there was a lot of reluctance to come, so we don't want that. All right, anything else on that group so that we can prepare ingredients, details for... And I'm going to send a letter to each of these groups asking them to give us an outline. Exactly, hey, what are you up to right now? we know that the Westfield Study Committee is in temporary remission because our RFPs are out. So we know what's going on with that one. And then, all right. Next up.
Mr. Chair, next up we have any other town business. And I was hoping that we could get the issue of the town administrator's position on the agenda on a weekly basis. And I'm going to tell you why, because we closed our ad a few weeks ago, received some resumes. We have an interim town administrator who's been gracious enough to serve far longer than he ever anticipated. He's really expected to do 2 full-time jobs, and we're not meeting for another 2 weeks now. We need to be able to talk about this situation and get something in motion.
Well, actually, we can talk about it right now. I received a letter back from the AG's office through town council in response to there was a suggestion that the Board of Selectmen would act as a screening committee in executive session. The answer to that was no. Then the suggestion was made that the Board of Selectmen meet in executive session and list the folks who applied by letter. While this has not been tested in a court of law, the feeling from the AG's office would be that if someone griped about it, the town would lose. So the board has a choice to move forward with that option and act as its own screening committee in executive session with a list of letters alongside. So it would be candidate A instead of Joe Jones, and Joe Jones is not applying for the town administrator's position. And so the board has an opportunity to either do that and take a chance that someone would contest it in court, or use a different solution so that the board has a minority of members on it. That's the issue, because we are the appointing authority. And to call this a screening committee, as it was called, to go through and vet the applications, the Board of Selectmen cannot do that in private without using the people's names. And those folks who have applied expect a certain level of confidentiality in their names being used in the application for these positions. They understand that if they're the top 3 finalists, that they have to sit on television. But many of these people, one, know Wareham very well, and your life would be ripped apart if somebody found out who you were. And secondly, their current employers don't know they're applying for work outside. We're not going to be the ones to announce that. So the board needs to make a decision on which way to go tonight. It's on the agenda because I just got the letter from Mr. Bowen.
Well,
So either we need to take a position and appoint a screening committee, or conduct interviews. We can do that too. But you can't act as a screening committee, 3 or more of us, without exposing the names.
Mr. Chairman, Attorney Bowen had discussed this with me, as you know, many months ago about the screening committees, and I do believe that I had put forth a proposal for a screening committee. But with that said, do we have an anticipated timeline at this point where we're coming on a holiday in July? And
we're going to make a decision hopefully in the next couple of minutes as to which way we're going, Mrs. Winslow. So that's what I'm asking for right now.
Well, my preference.
I'm asking whether or not this board, if you want to maintain the quorum in a majority of the board, then we go forward and do the interviews. If you're going to appoint this board as a screening committee, it's not going to work.
Well, Mr. Chairman, my preference is to appoint a screening committee so that we can guarantee our applicants confidentiality. I don't think that it's fair to them to publicize, they applied to this position in confidence. The only way around that, Mr. Chair, at this point, is for us to re-advertise
No, we're not.
outside of confidence, because for us to violate what we promised,
We're not going to do that.
that's,
We're not going to do that.
Okay.
And you know, and if the board appoints a screening group, I'm not worried about timelines. That can be done in a matter of a couple of days. This is not rocket science. It's that simple. I've hired many people over 35 years. This is not that difficult.
well, I mean, you're hiring for the top position in the town.
Doesn't
It
matter.
Shouldn't be,
It's a matter of quality. You're only looking at resumes. That's all there is to it at this point for a screening committee. That's what they're going to do. Just what we were going to do. Whittle them down.
well, and I don't have a problem with that, but I am concerned that this process is dragged out really long.
Well, we had to wait for a legal opinion.
I'm
We got
not-
it. I
I'm
got
not
it,
arguing with
and
you.
I'm bringing it right now, and I'd like to have an answer from the board. So, Mr. Titlebaum.
I guess at this point, what I'd like to hear is the makeup that Mrs. Winslow had first proposed. It seemed to have a whole bunch of people on there. I don't, if I recall, it was 11 or something like that as a screening committee. It was a substantial amount of people. I think we'd work 9.
There was somebody from the Board of, I think there were 9. Board of Selectmen, a member of the school committee, member of the finance committee, chairman or designee, town moderator, Onset Bay Association, Village Association, and 2 town employees.
That's getting a little cumbersome, I think.
Yeah,
I'd
I
prefer to
agree.
see a committee of about 5 rather than 9.
Absolutely.
It's hard enough for the 5 of us sometimes to figure things out.
you know, I think it's fine to expand. These folks can sit in with us at the end and do the interviews. I don't think they need to be on a screening committee.
And I would, with respect to this board, I mean, it's our charter responsibility to get this done. I would like to see 2 of 5 be members of the Board of Selectmen.
Mr. Slater.
My comment a while ago was that we should have a screening committee and keep us not out of the loop, but basically a little bit to the side because of the issues.
All right.
I believe the
Any
prior
recommendation on number?
5.
Makeup?
You'll need someone from probably the school committee because they represent half the budget and they've got to work together with the town administrator. Obviously, you're going to have finance committee because, again, they're working quite a bit close together. If you want, you can have a person out of the Board of Selectmen if you decide you want to do it that way.
Planning? Direction? Strategic issues?
Either
No.
planning or Cedar if you want.
They're not on either list.
No,
I
they-
thought Cedar was, I actually had thought Cedar was good. Mrs. Beckley?
Well, if
I'm
we're
going
going
to
to
add Cedar to the bottom of this list.
if we're going to go the screening route,
Well, you know what the issues are.
I do know what the issues are.
So,
That we can't do it in public session. I understand the issues. However, I totally disagree with having nonprofit groups on a screening committee that we're hiring, the top municipal employee in the town.
what's your number in your
I
mind?
agree with Mr. Titlebaum.
5?
That 5 maximum, absolute maximum would be 7 because the Board of Selectmen.
Board of Selectmen?
No. What I'm saying we should have 2 members of the Board of Selectmen. But when we were doing screening for a position in this town, the process seemed to go fairly smoothly with 7 people. And I think any more than that would be ridiculously cumbersome. And I think 5 would probably be ideal.
So you're suggesting, I'm putting ticks next to these titles.
I think that at least 2 members of the Board of Selectmen.
And
Well, it has to be just 2, maximally, actually.
Right.
I'll change that
And-
word. Maximally, right. And probably a member of the FinCom wouldn't be a bad idea.
FinCom? Cedar?
CETA. And I'm not really sure.
Is that it? Yes?
And
Is that a yes? CETA?
CETA is a yes. And that was my next suggestion. Town clerk.
Town
Clerk.
clerk?
Yeah, why not?
Mrs. Winslow.
She's an elected position, so isn't really in the same position as the appointed
Finance?
positions.
Did I ask you about finance?
Yeah, finance, I said yes. But with the town clerk, she is a department head, but she's an elected position, so she's not kind of...
Interesting.
Right. So
I like
she's
that.
not an appointed position in the municipality.
Takes the employee out of the defensive line
Right.
that we discussed. But I would like to see in the end some employees maybe on
Mr. Chair,
the final group.
one of the reasons why I included the nonprofits was because when Mr. Andrews arrived, we received copious emails and letters from the Wareham Village Association and the Onset Bay Association about how happy they were with the relationship that they built with the town administrator. And I would think that those groups would expect that those good relations would continue. So I felt their input not only represented the community as a whole, but it sort of set the tone, you know, for going forward, that those relationships are going to be important. And I
They
do.
are important.
They are.
Yes.
So,
Not at the peril of the town, but they are.
well, I don't think that they create peril. And CETA, as far as I'm concerned, the CETA reports to us, not the town administrator.
Right.
So,
So there would be
I
no
don't.
conflict of having CETA and the CETA director, or I'm talking about the CETA director, like Mr. Pena, so I'm thinking of.
Well, but I don't see what that person adds to the.
Well, when we vote on it, you can say yes or no.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying that in terms of, you know, the direction of the CETA office is pretty much set by the CETA board, and we oversee the CETA office, and the town administrator's job is administrative, not really.
My urging of the CETA position has nothing to do with the town administrator being his or her boss or anything, any of that. It's to talk about town administrator's strategic image of what Wareham can be, and the CETA director is an integral part of that. That's where I'm looking at it from an economic development standpoint,
Well, so is the.
not as an employee.
So are the two village associations.
Well,
Well,
that's up to you, and like I say, you'll have the opportunity to vote if you want them on there or not.
Mr. Chairman, it sounds like we've grown to 7.
We go. Now, well, listen, I'd like to get a motion on the number, if we can agree to that. If someone wants to make a motion on the number.
Now, if
This
we have
screening
two,
committee?
if we have two members of this board, does that compromise the subcommittee?
If we have two members, we're going to have a number.
No, because we're going to have other members that are not members of the Board of Selectmen.
Can I get a motion on a number, please?
I move that the screening committee for the town administrator be comprised of 7 individuals to be named subsequently.
I have a motion made to appoint a screening committee of 7 members.
Second.
Second by Mrs. Winslow. Anything else on the question? Anything else? Hearing nothing further, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 500. Makeup of those members.
Well, Mr. Chair, I think we have to have at least one representative from the Board of Selectmen, the Finance Committee, and the School Committee. Those are the 3 big pieces.
Screening committee, they're going to review applications and make a recommendation.
I understand that, but those are the 3
Board of Se-
biggies.
So you're, all right, here's what I got when I was going down the list from the discussion. There was a sense that a member or 2 of the Board of Selectmen should be part of the screening committee. Get a motion.
Well,
I move that 2 members of the Board of Selectmen be selected for the screening committee.
I have a motion made for 2 members
Get a
of the
second
Board
for
of
discussion
Selectmen,
anyway.
to be on the committee. Do I have a second? I have a second. Discussion.
well, shouldn't we
Yeah.
put together the whole?
Let him discuss.
I really think, given the you know, again, this is a charter responsibility of ours to come up with this individual, and I think we need to be, at least initially, we need to have significant representation along the way. And I think that if we just had one member of the Board of Selectmen, we have a more difficult time selecting this person or screening the applicants, I should say, with the whole board in mind. I think it's too difficult for one selectman to handle by themselves without injecting too much of themselves into it. I think if you've got two people there, they're going to act as checks upon each other. You will wind up, I think, with a slate of candidates that is more closely going to reflect what the board as a whole wants. So that's why I'm pushing so hard for the two.
All right, Mr. Slavin. Mrs. Begley? Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chair, I'm not sure that I'm sold on two. I mean, I personally would like to see how the whole committee is going to be comprised before.
We're filling those seats right now. 7 members.
I
How many
understand
members
that.
of the Board of Selectmen is the question? 1 or 2?
Well, but who are the other members is my
we
question.
have a motion for 2.
I
We'll get to them next. We're coming up to that.
Okay, well, I'm not going to support the motion because
Okay.
I want to know who the other members are. I mean, who the other members of the committee are going to be.
All right.
I don't want to take up 2 spots if there's other people in the community, in the town that, you know,
It's a screening
the
committee.
screening committee
Right.
that could.
It's
Ultimately-
this is not the interview committee, or
I
it's
understand
the
that.
screening committee.
We're going to handle the.
And we may have others involved in that process. We haven't got to that yet.
I understand that.
Okay. Have a motion. Anything else on the question? I have a motion made and second for 2 members of the Board of Selectmen to serve on the screening committee. All in favor? Aye. All opposed?
No.
All abstain? 410. Okay. Position number 3.
Well,
It was mentioned. I'll go right down this list, and you know what we were just talking about. There was a suggestion by more than one that a member, the chairman or designee of the school committee, serve on on this board as well. Screening committee.
Are we going to make a motion for each one of these?
I need a motion for the next slot.
Motion so made. School
I have a
committee.
motion for the
Second.
chairman of the school committee.
Chair or designee.
Or designee of the school committee to serve on the screening committee, second by Mr. Title. On the question.
I think
Anybody?
we're probably all in accordance that this is, next to, I think, the selectman, the second most important position due to the budget responsibilities and everything else, so.
I agree with that. Anybody else? Mrs. Begley?
Well, I think that I would, this board has really nothing to do with the school department. I mean,
It's
you
a
know.
screening committee to
Right,
select the town
I know.
administrator.
I gotcha, and I understand that we're both elected boards, and I understand that you are trying to promote some goodwill. However,
Well,
I
it's
have,
more than,
I
it's
just
more than
have a
goodwill,
problem
I
with
think.
it.
It's,
Well, I have a problem with it. We don't participate. There's no member on this board that participates in the hiring of a school superintendent, which is
Well-
also very important because that's more than 50% of the budget.
Well, I guess my point is not so much that the Board of Selectmen work with the school committee, but certainly the schools committee and the superintendent work very closely with the town administrator. So that's why I want them to have I would suggest that they deserve a stake at the table, not because of our relationship with the school committee, but rather their relationship with the administrator.
and if they don't feel it necessary, they will not accept my invitation when I send the letter to them. Right. Anything else? Motion made and seconded to have a member of the chairman of the school committee or his or her designee be appointed to the screening committee. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 410. Okay, next up on
Make a
that
motion.
list with extra comments was the
FinCom.
finance committee.
I'll make a motion to put the chair or designee of the finance committee.
I have a motion made to put the chair of the designee of the finance committee on the screening committee. I have a second on the question. Nothing Anything on the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 500.
Miss-
Chair, or that was or designate? No.
Or designate.
All of them were, all right.
Yes.
Okay. Next up on this list, where he had any commentary, was CETA, Town Clerk, and the associations.
Well, Mr. Chair, I would really like to see, I mean, the town clerk can certainly represent the department heads, you know, from that perspective at the table. But I would really like to see a lower level employee representative on the screening committee. I think that's been a real challenge for us over the last few years. And it would be nice for us to, have some input. I mean, these people have to work for this person ultimately, and this person's going to be...
This is a screening committee.
I understand it's a screening
Well, they're
committee.
not even going to get to meet the people.
They don't have to meet the people. They should be part of the process. As we go through the process, we should be as inclusive as we can.
I agree, and they should be, I'll say it again, this is a screening committee, and those people that we're talking about, the niceties, would come after the people go through resumes. You're not going to have employees going through resumes of people at this level in their careers. No. I mean, listen, that's my opinion. This is confidential information, and I say no, but I'm only one of five.
Well, what about the town accountant?
You want to make that in the form of a motion? Because we're not going to kick this can around.
No,
So-
I'm trying to have a conversation.
Well, we've had a lot of time to think about this. Conversing is over. It's time to start making some decisions here. The motion is made. Are you making a motion for the town clerk? Did you?
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not doing anything. I'm bouncing an idea
Well,
out there. That's all.
Does anyone else have a motion, Mr. Titlebaum?
Not a motion, but just one quick response to what Kara was looking for. One of the problems I see with having a one-town employee is, I think we discussed last week, we
Excuse
have
me.
about
It's
775
not, we don't
of them.
have a motion for a town employee, so there's no discussion of town employees. Can I have a motion, please?
Well, I would like to make a motion for the town accountant to be on this committee.
I'd have a motion for the town accountant to be on this committee. Have a second. Next up.
I'll move that the town clerk be a member of this committee.
Have a motion for the town clerk to be a member of the screening committee.
Second.
Second. I have a motion made and seconded for the town clerk. Mrs. Bagley and Mr. Slavin. Discussion of the town clerk. These are, of course, I'm going to invite these people. They could say no, right? So,
Well, in that instance, maybe we should designate one alternate.
we'll get to that when we get. First, we're going to get through the 7. Yeah. Motion made and seconded for the town clerk. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay, slot number 6.
Make a motion for the town treasurer.
Did we skip over the Cedar people?
Not yet.
They've been mentioned several times. What did you say it was?
Town treasurer.
Town treasurer?
Yeah, he has the skills to go through the different pieces.
I have a motion made for the
Please
town
be quiet.
treasurer to serve on this.
He's saying no. That's an uncomfortable position. Yeah.
Well, the town treasurer. He has an acting treasurer in his place.
Well, we could say the town
that-
treasurer or
his
designee.
So that
He's still saying no.
he's not going to be on a screening committee
Mr.
to pick his
Chair.
boss. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Foster has been doing 2 full-time jobs, so whether or not he chooses to do it himself or is uncomfortable being chosen or having a designee chosen, I think we should be respectful of that.
Well, the question is on having the treasurer or a representative of the treasurer's
I'll
office.
remove my motion. I'm going to remove my motion. He's
Okay.
uncomfortable.
All right, next up.
I'll make a
Well-
motion that the CETA director be a member.
CETA director, as in Mr.
Not
Pina.
designee, CETA
As in
director.
Mr. Pina.
Mr. Salvatore Pina,
So
right.
we're clear on what we're asking for.
Not a designee.
I have a motion made and seconded for Mr. Pina, the CETA director, to serve on the committee. Questions, comments, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
410. I got one more slot.
I'll make a motion for capital planning chair or designee.
Second.
What was that? Capital? And a motion made and seconded for capital planning chair or designee. I have a motion made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
One no? Hang on. Capital planning 410. I would request two alternatives in the event that someone rejects.
Well, Mr. Chair, with a committee of 7, even if 2 don't show up, wouldn't they still have a quorum?
It's not a matter of showing up. It's a matter of someone saying thank you, but no thank you. We don't have the authority to force people to serve on this.
No, I understand that.
So if we voted for a committee of 7, I have 7 invitations right now. If someone doesn't want to come to the party, I need at least 2 more alternatives so I can turn to.
Well, I would move that Steve Curry, the chairman of the Board of Assessors, be alternate number 1.
I have a motion made for alternate number 1, chairman of the board. Is that chairman of the director of assessing?
Chairman of he's the Board of Assessors. That's an election.
Chairman.
Yeah.
Second.
Assessors. Second.
Second.
Question.
Yeah, why?
Why not? We put the CETA director there.
Yeah.
All right.
Would it be chair or designee?
Chair or designee, yes, I'll correct that.
Yeah, I think the only one that we've is the CETA. We have a specific person and the town clerk. The others were chair or designee.
Correct.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?
No.
410. Second alternative.
May I ask a question about the alternates?
Sure.
So,
I'm not going to invite them unless I
okay,
get a rejection.
that was my question.
Right.
That was
In
my
other words,
question.
If I get something on Wednesday that says, hey, Steve, thank you, but no thank you,
Yeah.
I don't want to have to come back here. There's no delay. I have options.
All right, and then I just have another question once we've completed this process.
All right, we got one more.
I move that the town accountant, Brian Kudish, serve as alternate number 2.
Town accountant.
I know,
Gives
but
a
we're
new,
on
fresh
other people.
perspective, you think? All right, I have a motion made for Mr. Kudish as alternate number 2. Questions?
Yeah,
Well-
just so we understand that there's a priority list being made here with the alternates. Our first priority alternate would be Mr. Curry, and the second would be Mr. Kudish. Is
That's
that how we're
correct.
doing
Alternate
it?
number
Okay.
1 and number 2.
I just wanted to get that on the record so
Got
we're
it.
clear. Thanks.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? 500. All right, I will get those letters sent out first thing in the morning to the various members. Mrs. Begley had a question before I proceed.
I do. I think that most of the people that we've chosen are either employees or elected officials. Is that correct? Well, they all are.
2,
They all are. Now,
3, 4 elected, 5 elected officials.
I would very much, I guess I'd be more concerned if they weren't town employees or elected officials because of, you know that I've been pushing for town employees to kind of, or people that are around sensitive documents to sign a confidentiality agreement.
Right. And I
So-
will speak with Mr. Bowen about that. Anyone who signs up for this will have to sign a document.
Standard procedure.
Absolutely. And then I think, Mrs. Begley, you and I have commented a couple times about this confidentiality thing. And I think that as we proceed through our policy manuals, we need to make sure that when we get to that one, that it has some real teeth and check marks.
Mr.
Okay, I
Costa?
will get these letters out in the morning. And if you don't hear from me in the next few days, it means that the top 7 accepted. If I have to send out the alternates, I will inform the board by email. Please don't respond. Okay?
Well, Mr. Chair,
Yes.
I'd also like to entertain the thought of putting an interim in for this process.
There won't be time.
What do you mean there won't be time?
By the time you interview and apply, this will be over. going to be very quick, Mrs. Winslow.
How can it be that quick?
It's going to be that quick.
How do you
In
know?
the time it would take you to hire an interim, we can hire a town administrator. What's the difference? You got to go through the posting, you got to go through the screening, you got to go through the. We're doing it right now.
We actually have to backtrack if we have to do interim because you got to repost.
And what if there isn't a successful candidate?
From
Don't we go
31?
Yes.
I think we'll be fine.
I disagree with you.
Well, you have that right.
31? I don't,
It's 27.
27.
okay.
Okay. good.
26.
We just got rid of 4. Thanks.
I think I found one. I think it was one more. So
Oh.
I'm sure we'll be fine.
That
You
takes
don't
care.
have to agree. That's why America is so beautiful.
That takes care of everything except who our 2 designees are. We should get that out of the way.
That once we cleared Mrs. Begley's question, the next question is, what's the board's pleasure on the 2 members?
Well, I think it's a no-brainer that the chairman be part of it.
Are you saying the chairman has no brain? Is that what you just said?
Well, you can take it that way, too.
Is that what he just said? I thought that's what he said.
There you go.
Well, sometimes I agree with you.
Well, there you go.
Well,
So respectfully, I would suggest that
2 members, so.
you serve, and I would nominate Mr. Slavin as a second. Why are you looking at me that way, Alan?
Yeah,
I think I'd rather see, I'd like not to do it, we're still very new at this. I'd rather see someone like Kara who has experience in this.
That makes sense. My understanding was Kara didn't want to get so involved in the initial screening, but if that's if this committee satisfies what she's looking
She didn't
for.
want any part of it at all?
Well, she did. She didn't want any part of the board doing it all. So let's get her thoughts. I think we should get her thoughts on this.
Right?
My concern was exactly what ended up happening, and that was that without utilizing a process that could guarantee the confidentiality of the applicants, that we were going to end up in a place in getting ourselves in trouble. And
Well, we're not in trouble.
I understand that. That was
Okay.
that
Well,
was
you
my
use words like that.
That was my
and
concern.
To someone listening at home, now thinks we're in trouble.
But you're
We're
not.
in
Listen.
trouble. Well, you use different words. That
I
have
said.
to clarify for people.
Oh no, I have to clarify for you because I said in the beginning
Well,
that
use
was
the
my
words
concern.
Like trouble. That's an issue for me. You know that, and you do it, so it's fine. We're not in trouble. We didn't do anything.
I know we're not in trouble. I said my concern
Well, your concern, and then you throw the word trouble.
was
It's an
that
issue.
we would end up in trouble.
But we're not.
Right.
Mr. Chair, again, I would ask if Mrs. Winslow wants to have the second position.
I don't have a problem serving on a screening committee constructed as this one is.
Thank you.
Well, I'm ready with a motion if somebody wants me to make it.
I don't know that I don't know that I'm all that into it.
Should be the chair.
Here's how I see it. Maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, but here's my feeling. We are the appointing authority, and I don't consider it that big a deal, but some people do. When the chairman of the Board of Selectmen says something like a prayer over dinner or anything else that I might say.
Well, don't pray.
When I'm walking down the street and they call the State Ethics Commission every day on you, that's fine. This is a very serious process, and I'm not into the idiots playing games with me. So I would just assume allow 2 members of the board to go do it. Let 2 members of the board go and do the process. If I'm in the room and I favor a particular person or another based on a resume, then they'd probably be looking for me to get off when it comes time to do the real interviewing, and I want to make sure I'm available for that.
Okay, well.
So that's my position.
So then you don't want to be part of a motion?
I really don't.
Fair enough. Well then,
having heard, if you're asking my opinion, I would say that Mrs. Begley and Mrs. Winslow have been dealing with our labor-type issues, I'd say let them deal with the screening committee if they want to.
I'll make a motion for Mrs. Begley and Mrs. Winslow to be the screening committee, the BOS members.
Second.
I have a motion made and seconded for Mrs. Begley and Mrs. Winslow to serve on the screening committee. That's if they wish to. Right. Mrs. Begley, do you wish to? Mrs. Winslow?
I'll do it.
And we have 2 accepting members. Anything else? Motion made. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? You oppose? No, I said 5-0. Oh, 5-0. Thank you. Yeah, I just don't think that's the place of the chairman of the Board of Selectmen to be in the screening group. Next up. Thank you very much. I know that can be painful, but thank you. And I don't mean to shorten the conversation, but we've all had over a month to think about this.
But we haven't had a month to talk
Next
about
up.
it.
It's going to
Town
be
ad-
done very quickly.
Town Administrator's Report.
Mr. Foster.
I just had...
John? Go ahead.
All set?
Sorry. Yeah.
Okay. I just had 2 quick issues. The first one was brought up earlier this evening regarding the 20 trash barrels that came in,
Yeah.
that Mr. Buckminster is in charge of right now. He'll be implementing them. They'll be in different locations throughout the town. They are apparently wildlife proof. They're skunk resistant, and they have covers. So there are 20 new barrels. They cost $8,000. The town didn't pay for them. They came from the Regional Refuse Committee. The other issue was brought to my attention by, the other item was brought to my attention by a Board of Assessor member. Our Director of Assessment, Elsa Miller, has been awarded her MAA designation from the Massachusetts Association of Assessing Officers. It was awarded this June 19th, and we would like to congratulate her on that.
Very nice. Nice job. That's it.
Short and sweet.
I'm going to ask you just a question without a lot of detail. You understand my frustration with 118 Sandwich Road and the board's frustration. Are you on this, Mr. Foster? If you can't divulge information because of legal issues, I understand, but at least let us know that you're on this and that you saw my email about a timeline for remediation and who's responsible. Has that been completed?
Yes, we are currently working on this daily. And we have also, I guess I could say this, most people that have driven down Sandwich Road have noticed a clear plastic liner covering a large pile of rubble. We have received an order from the DEP to cease work on that site until such time as a licensed or approved project designer and abatement contractor can come out and review and remove the pile of rubble.
I would just ask that, obviously there's some frustration here, and I would ask through you, if it's okay with Mr. Sullivan, Derek, would you make sure that tomorrow you get with Shirley, get a hold of that. There's a folder that came from the health agent in Mr. Gifford. And would you make sure that Mr. Foster gets that folder on contractors licensed? That Mr. Ethier and the Board of Health went out several months ago and got bids. That was turned in to the town, to Mr. Andrews. Obviously, they didn't follow his recommendations, went and hired somebody else. Not on that list. So we need to get that folder into Mr. Foster's hands. And John, really, one of the big issues is who's in charge of this. We got an email about 7 weeks ago from a department head saying that he was now in charge of this and he was going to deal with it. Well, we're a lot worse now than we were then. And we have the health agent trying to help out. We have another department head, and they just don't. I mean, there was a mishmash of emails back and forth. It was, as I said to you, it was awful. I don't think I used any other bad words. So as long as the board, I think, is comfortable knowing that you're on this, you have a timeline. Also, the question will come in as to we have some money in the 2012 budget that we've been concerned about spending prior to the end of fiscal year. And that property was part of this.
Well, we can encumber that money, can we not, Mr. Foster?
For this project?
For this project.
For the answer, one of you.
Yeah, we haven't received any of the estimates right now. I'm not sure. Once the plan is submitted to the DEP and approved, it should be a matter of, and we hire a contractor, we get somebody out there that knows what they're doing. It should take a couple days to remove that. So they're working on it this week. They were trying to obtain quotes today, and we should have some numbers by the end of this week.
John, and that's what I'm saying. With all due respect, if you get that folder, the last person I had the folder in my hand, I handed it to Shirley and said to give that to Mr. Andrews. That folder's in the office. The bids have already been, they've already put this out to bid for the licensed people. Now, the new work plan, I understand, wasn't included in those bids, but these guys are all licensed to deal with those issues, which is why they were on the list in the first place.
Mr.
Now,
Chair.
the question, though, is on the money that we had budgeted, and do you plan to use that money or not?
We have 25,000 available in
Correct.
inspection services. We would have to make an act to encumber it as we're hitting the year end. If we get a bill after July 1st and we haven't encumbered it,
Right.
we wouldn't be able to put it against that. So we'll have to take some sort of action with accounting to actually encumber those funds. Would be my understanding.
Well,
Mr. Chair.
The question is it going to be done? That's the question, not what can we do. We've been hearing about what we can do. What we need to know is it going to happen? That's what we're trying to get to.
Tomorrow morning I'll get with the town accountant to try and make sure that that happens. I don't know the process that needs to be done for that off the top of my head, but I will speak to him tomorrow morning to see if that is something we can get done now.
John, can we do that? You know, the worst case at this point is that money is not encumbered. I mean, it's been sitting there, and we counted on spending that money on that property. And I see a gentleman sitting right behind you. He's not going to comment right now. And he's been a real advocate for this, and we've been pushing for this. And then at some point we can deal with who's the reason and why. But for now, we need to concentrate on getting the plan done and get it done and getting that money used. Right? If the board has any additional comments.
One question.
Without too many details, because there is some legal issues there.
Derek, on the budget for 2013, do we have money assigned to that account?
Yeah, inspections did receive a reduction, but I believe that we didn't touch the $25,000 for their line for FY13.
So if we don't make the June 30th date, we basically go into 2013 and take the money from that budget.
All right.
Because whatever you turn back, I assume goes into free cash.
Right, it would go into free cash, and again, we wouldn't know what the free cash number is, but there would be approximately $25,000 available in FY13.
So we don't have to panic and do things and actually figure out what we're going to do ahead of time. If we don't make it for June 30th, we just put it into the 2013, correct?
We could do that. We would have that option available.
Okay.
But the point is to try to get this done.
Yeah, but just in case,
2012.
you don't have to rush in last minute type thing. If
Well,
you don't make it, you don't make it.
It's only last minute for a reason.
Mr. Chair.
Yes.
Two things. I do believe that they can encumber even if they don't have an actual bill. All they need is the estimate.
Right.
Because then if we don't spend the entire PO, that money will turn back into free cash at the end of that year. But my question is, was the individual that was hired not licensed to deal with asbestos?
I think that's a question that's not going to be answered right now.
Not good.
We're not going to cross over from a status update to a legal issue, no.
Oh.
So you can ask another question if you'd like, but not that one.
Well, no, but I'm just wondering how this whole situation came about.
You'll be fully informed. Just not on that question right now, because there may be legal issues around the answer to that, Mrs. Begley.
Do you mind if I change the subject?
Well, I'd like to close this subject out.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
Anything
done.
else on 118?
Are you done? It was
Mr. Foster,
118.
you'll
I'm
keep
done.
us posted. And Derek, you'll get the folder,
I'll get
Please.
the folder and speak to the town accountant.
and that way we can get that. Because that folder has everything you need in it, is in that folder. Okay? All right.
Okay. My question is, during the town administrator's report, I just wanted to ask a question about, we have some positions that are either filled by interims or unfilled right now at Town Hall, not including yours, John, of course. And I'm just wondering, are we just going to hold off on hiring until we hopefully hire a town administrator, or are you in the process of filling those positions?
Are you referring to the building inspector,
Well,
plumbing inspector?
Yeah, there's a few.
No, if that comes up, right now they're having interviews for both of those positions this week. And if that comes up, depending on how long it takes you to hire the town administrator, I'm still acting as the town administrator.
Yes.
So I would make a suggestion on hiring those two positions.
Which is fine. I was just wondering where we were in the process for those kinds of things.
There
But-
is
We've had, just so we're clear,
Microphone.
positions.
Sorry, no. Mr. Holmes, you're too far back from your
Oh,
microphone.
I'm sorry. You know, in recent memory, over the last couple, since John has been acting, as a matter of fact, I think he's actually opened some tickets that we had available, slots. We had a driver, I think, part-time in maintenance that was filled. We did a sewer plant, one or two sewer plants. Yeah, there's been several people
The town
that the town has
accountant.
hired. The town accountant.
Right, but these were positions that were, I mean, there's certainly some are key positions and some were recently vacated.
Right.
But my question, I guess my question is this. Are there any positions in town that we're going to try to hold off on because of A, they can wait till the new town administrator, or B, there's budgetary constraints?
Unless the position's not needed.
Right.
I mean, if it's useful and it's budgeted, unless somebody else is going to say no, it's up to him right now.
Right.
And if he's the appointing authority, then we vote on those. If not, if it's his directors, he okays them. All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, we're up to liaison reports.
Mr. Titlebaum?
Nothing.
How's that cable committee coming?
You'll
I'm
be
busting him. I'm
the
sorry.
first to know.
I'm sorry, but you know how critical that's going to be. And once you get started in that, pal, God love you, because you won't see much daylight. Mr. Slater.
Planning board met last night, and they finished up on 2387 Cranberry Highway, finished the public hearing. So those two projects I mentioned a couple weeks ago should be off and running. And as I mentioned before, someone asked about Tractor Supply. I'll try and get you an answer for that as well.
Okay.
But that's still in the works.
Okay. Mrs. Winslow?
Mr. Chairman, we have a new chairman of the Board of Library Trustees and a new vice chairman. Mr. Flaherty, as we know, did not renew his appointment since he was elected to the school committee. And that's about it.
And I think we have somebody applied, right?
For
We have
Board of Library Trustees?
Yeah.
No.
I think we got an application in for our next meeting. There's an interview, I think.
I
saw
think so.
that from
Yeah.
Janet.
I think so. I don't know.
So that's good.
That's good. That's
They,
great.
I think they only have one opening, right, Mr. Schneider?
No.
God, I got Mr. Schneider on the brain. It's always pictures.
I'd have to check,
Mr.
but I thought there was already an opening. We can look at that. Mrs.
Okay.
Bentley?
Minot Forest wanted me to announce, and it's in the papers, and it will be, there'll be signage up about the culling of the diseased red pine trees will begin on July 9th. Now, just to be clear, some of the trees that are diseased red pines are also on some private property. Those will not be taken down. This is going to be entirely up to the homeowner to take care of their own diseased red pine trees. This will only be the trees that are on Minot Forest land.
Are there trees close by residents'
There may be, that it may be that's the patch of them, but we will not, this project will not go on private property to remove those trees or make that part of this project. The individual parties will have to get their own contracts, do their
Can
own
they tie in
project.
with the town, Mrs. Begley?
Not on this contract. I
They
asked that
can't?
specific
While the
question.
guy's there,
no.
while the guy's right there with all his equipment and no go?
No go. They were pretty adamant about that.
Too bad.
Capital planning did not have a quorum, so was unable to continue to their meeting. They're still trying to find a date, a time of day, and that kind of thing in order to do so, and they do have vacancies. So, and after these appointments, there are still remain vacancies on many of the boards and committees. And I would encourage people to attend the Board of Selectmen meetings on the first and third Wednesdays at 4 p.m. in the Town Hall cafeteria. Please come.
You mean the Board
The
of Health?
Board of Health, sorry.
I was gonna
I've got
say,
Board of
great.
Selectmen on the brain. Board of
great.
Health meetings.
We could,
Please come.
I'd rather start at 4 in the afternoon than 7 at 9. Okay.
Mr. Chair, we don't have anything under the policies tonight, so
Yes, hang
we
on
can-
a second. On the policies, here's what we've done. Shirley has begun a book for each of the groups. Right now, I've got them in 3 groups in my mind. She's begun to put the sewer policies in the book, numbering them, just like the way the selectmen one reads. There will be the list of names of all the members of the board, and then there'll just be a signature for the chairman at the bottom. That way, we're not chasing people around to get signatures on all these pages. The board members will be listed, and the chairman, we weren't going to have a signature at all, but we figured somebody sneaky could create one and just put it in the book, so we figured we'd at least get a signature on the policy. But
further-
all members would be listed, just one signature acknowledging that the document is real.
Further in that regard, Mr. Bowen suggested to me briefly at one point when we were talking about policies in general that we should codify these and have them listed by number, and that would also make it a lot harder for anybody to pull any funny business, to finish the policy revisions and then group them, number them, subsection, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, the sewer ones, a lot of those didn't have any numbers on them. Right. And so she's numbering them the same way that we did the Board of Selectmen.
Weren't
book.
these voted by number, though? I mean,
No.
when it was in the motion.
Well, no.
When someone has a policy, they'll say
There was no, if
88-12.
there's no number, Mrs. Begley, like the ones we did last week for Mr. Campino, there was no policy number.
Well,
We used the title of the
right, we
policy.
made the distinction that some were made through the Water Pollution Control Facility Director, by the sewer commissioners, but through that process, and that's why it's so disjointed. But my question is this: do we have to readopt that policy as a Board of Selectmen sewer commissioner policy with a number?
She's just numbering those that are not sewer commissioner. She's now creating a directory with a number.
We can vote to adopt a table of contents,
Right.
Can do that.
so that'll take care of
Anything
having
that
to go
wasn't
through every
assigned
single
a
one.
number is now being assigned a
I
sequential
understand.
number.
So that it's easier to find, and I understand that. Now, when it comes to the signatures, isn't that something this board would have to vote on?
That's up to you. If you all want to sign every single policy or have
Yeah, I do.
one signature on the policy with all the names, it's up to you.
Well, I would prefer that, Mr. Holmes.
There you go. Anybody else? You want to sign them? I'll have Shirley put 5 signatures. Shirley, put 5 signatures. Done. Has everyone received a copy? Was going to put them on for tonight, but I wasn't sure if you guys got copies of Mr. Bowen's liquor. Did you get copies of that? Okay. So I'll tell you now that at our next meeting, the main subject of the meeting will be those liquor policies for review and approval. So you got 2 weeks to read them. We're not going to read them here in pull them all apart. I would expect recommendations when you arrive, please. And then we'll get those adopted, and I believe on that night, we're going to pull the first 5 Board of Selectmen policies as well. And I think Campine has got 3 ready in the queue, coming in the queue.
Right.
So that night will be a lot of, it'll be the liquor, the first 5, and I think 3 more for Mr. Campino.
Well, Mr. Holmes, while we're in this process, and I'll be very brief, while we're in this process, we'll be reviewing the liquor policies, having the discussions, amending them as we see fit, as this board sees fit, and within the law. However, that's still going to be in process. So it will still be in process. What I would like to discuss as a board, and if we could discuss that on the next agenda, I would appreciate it, is adherence/enforcement of the current policies.
Well, hopefully, by the next meeting, we will adopt the new policies, and those will become the policies.
Well, I'm talking about the adherence of the current policies, Mr. Holmes.
I think in the new policy book, it'll talk about the adherence to the policies.
Mhm. Because these policies are not amending people's liquor licenses, they're simply the policies surrounding that. So the current liquor licenses with conditions apply, no matter what we do with the policies.
Absolutely.
Okay?
And then, once those are done, we're going to schedule a workshop as well and invite all the business owners in who hold the license so that they're clear on what the town policies are.
Well, I know this isn't on the agenda and I don't want to veer too far off the path, but does the police station, get a copy of the license and conditions attached on all businesses in town? Do you know the answer to that question?
I think they get the liquor.
They
do get the liquor.
Since they're pretty much the enforcement agents of the board. That's what I'm saying. They're still the enforcement agents. Exactly. No, I don't know that they do.
I think they find out when somebody calls them.
That's right. And so
They don't go around checking.
whoever's doing the liquor policies, if they could include the Wareham Police Department and better communication with them, I would appreciate that.
Police department deals with scheduled, they have a schedule throughout the year where they'll check IDs one thing, and then they'll do another thing for hours, and it's very scattered. No, they don't go to a business. And they have no idea what time that business is supposed to be open and closed unless it's after general hours. But they do have special sting nights where they do certain things. All right. Anything else?
Mr. Chair, I move that the board adjourn into executive session to discuss litigation, conversation of which could be a detriment to the body if the chair so declares.
Motion made.
Second.
Second. I have a motion made and second. In favor? Roll call. Mr. Titlebaum?
Yes.
Slavin? Holmes? Yes. Spegley? Mrs. Winslow?
Yes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Board of Selectmen Sewer Commissioners meeting will conclude on its public portion. We will be going into executive session, will not be returning to public session. Thank you very much, and have a great 4th of July.